Hello, good evening, and good day, everybody, and welcome to the Ask Abhijit show. I hope you're all doing great. So, we will take questions about any topic that you want today, as always. But before we get into that, let's see who all is there on the live stream. Let's see who is there. I can see. Who do I see? I can see Rano Nahapana, who is here from Rawalpindi, Pakistan. Sports is here. Akshay Sharma, Ishan Das, Mary Kane. Good morning, Mary. Amritul Pule, bonjour. Sports, Iran, Pakistan loading says. Okay, that's interesting. Mehul Rajesh Babu, Rekha Humble, Rohan Bidi. Happy Sunday, sir. Sharma 108X. Abhishek Shukla Live says, Happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day to you as well. Belated, of course. And who else do we have? Just some nut. Wonders hub with me. Belated Dominion Status Day, everyone. Okay, that may not be too inaccurate. Geopolitical Dubai is here from Indore. Good to have you. Always good to have you, sir. ER Drubsha is here from Nepal. Namaste. Baka Kakorot is here. Sharma once again. ER Drubsha once again as well. Rishabh Chaudhary. Wanderer Hub with me. Sports 98. Rishabh Chaudhary. Freaky Nikki. Okay. Ayush Singh is here. Good evening, Ayush. Good to see you as always. Sports 98. Om Naik. Namaskar. Sports 98 was again. Nikita Lalsa. Ram Ramji. Ram Ram. Yes, greetings for Independence Day. Which version of Vande Mataram you sang? How many versions do we have? I hear there's some controversy going on. I'm not getting into the controversy. I don't know what it is, but all right. Self 777. All right. Aniket is here. Good to see you, Aniket. Kanish Kaushik is also here. Good evening. Hello. Wanderer Hub with me, Baba Kakorot once again. PK8820. Hockey World Cup. Is there a Hockey World Cup going on? I'm not even aware of it, sadly. Okay. Well, good. Thank you for letting me know. I was not aware of this. Short GK facts. Animals for laugh is here from Mumbai. Somi is here from Jaipur. Good evening. Manisha Cardoso, namaste, ma'am. Shreyas Mitra, hello from Moscow. Good evening in Moscow. Ayush, Samrat Shukla, Priyanshi Sood Om. Good to see you, ma'am. Samrat Shukla, good to see you as well. Sugant BVKS. Utkarsh Shukla, short GK facts. Aryan Kumar VK, Jay Guman, bon après-midi, bonsoir. Pour moi, c'est soir ici. Wander Hub with me. Nakul is here from Karnataka. Kahan from Saket, Delhi. Okay. Karan Dalawat, Jay Shri Ram. So many people. Good to see you all. Always good to see you all. V. Abhijit Kumar. Captain Saurav, Karan Dalawat, Vikram Darji, Anirudh Arya from Gurugram. Reddy, always ready. Good to see you. Ganesh Rajababu is here from Bangalore. Well, I was in Bangalore today morning. Okay. General Subutha is here. Good to see you, sir, as well. Okay, let's take some questions, shall we? Let's take some questions. Tazan Do is here from the USA. Good morning to you. Tazan Do. Samrat Shukla, just some nut. Namaste. Abhinav Bagalkot. Hello. Okay, let's take some questions. Where shall we begin? Wanderer Hub with me says, even though India is poor, dirty, with a huge economic disparity. Does India have a huge economic disparity? Actually, India's Gini coefficient is much more on the right side compared to more developed nations. But yeah, they tell us that India has income disparity. There's a gigantic gap between the rich and the poor and so on. Okay. Why is its homicide rate among the lowest in the world, not like Brazil or Mexico? That's that's an interesting question, isn't it? It's because of India's culture. That's the only explanation. There's no other explanation. Indians are not a violent people. Indians may, because of the chaos and the situation in India today, Indians may, not have the best civic sense, let's say. Okay. Maybe Indians bend the law, bend the rules. There's no traffic law rules followed anywhere, right? and so on. So yeah, Indians take liberties with things at a smaller petty level, but then they don't generally, engage in serious crimes. And that's something you see across the world. The Indian diaspora, no matter where they settle in the world, you will find almost no Indians in the jails in those countries. It's a cultural thing. It's a civilizational thing. Indians are not violent people. Indian culture is not violent. Why can't the same be said about gender crimes? Okay, look, I don't have the statistics and data, but gender crimes also is going to be the lowest, some of the lowest in the world. Okay, I don't look. You can generalize things and make any kind of statement like, oh, India ranks high in gender crimes or whatever. Let's talk on the basis of numbers. So my point is, if you make a claim without backing it up, I can dismiss it without backing it up. So I don't think India ranks high in gender crimes or whatever. But yeah, that's a kind of narrative that is created about India, that Indians are, yeah. All right. Wanderer Hub with me says, if we had not been invaded, would be like Japanese, as native culture is very similar. I mean, in the sense of cleanliness, etiquette, politeness, considerate, etc. Well, would India have been exactly like the Japanese? No, it would have been different because Indian culture and Japanese culture are very similar because India's culture was exported to Japan. And it's been part of Japanese culture for well over 1,000 years. Japan had banned cow slaughter for centuries. Most Japanese were utterly vegetarian. They would eat fish sometimes, yeah. The samurai were vegetarians who ate fish, like the Bengalis. Bengalis, if you go to Bengal and somebody eats fish, they don't consider that person to be a non-vegetarian, right? That sort of thing. So Japanese culture is very similar to Indian culture because India's culture was exported to Japan, and Japan absorbed it and syncretized it with their native culture, which itself was very similar to Indian culture, the Shinto religion and culture, right? That sort of thing. But Japan, of course, we know it's a country with extremely high with an extremely high degree of cleanliness, etiquette, politeness, and so on, attention to detail, etc. Right? It's a wonderful place to go to and experience. Would India have been like that? I suppose it would, right? I mean, we have all these accounts by foreign travelers who came to India over the centuries. Has any one of them ever written in their accounts that Indians are unclean, they lack civic sense, they don't have etiquette, they aren't polite? No, none of them has written this. That is something you see in present day, modern day India. It's not something that was historically part of our culture, right? When you turn a country into chaos and shambles, that's what eventually happens. When there's no actual rule of law, when the rules aren't enforced, laws aren't enforced, that's when these things happen. So yes, if India had not been invaded and occupied by foreigners and transformed into what it is today, then yes, India would have been very similar to what Japan is today, kind of. Yes. Okay, let's take some more interesting questions, shall we? Let's see. Udit Mahesh says, will making bureaucrats who join the bureaucracy after a certain date susceptible to dismissal solve the problem of inefficient bureaucracy in our country? Why apply? Okay, let's say you bring in a new law or rule or whatever, that bureaucrats can be made susceptible to dismissal. But why would you apply it only to certain bureaucrats and not to the previously existing ones? Would that not be unfair? It would be unfair. I would say that everybody must uphold certain standards of performance and so on. And if you don't uphold those standards, you should be dismissed like everybody else across the world. Why is it the case in India, only in India, that if a bureaucrat hypothetically doesn't perform well, or takes liberties with whatever, then they are only suspended for a while, or maybe transferred somewhere else? Why aren't they suspended? Why aren't they dismissed? You will never hear of a bureaucrat being dismissed, right? So I would say it makes a lot of sense for bureaucrats, if they break the law or if they do certain things that are not supposed to be done, they should be dismissed. I would not say that it should only be, that rule should only apply to certain people who join after a certain date. That would be incredibly unfair. Okay, Ritik Pawar says, how can a guy like Trump and a country like the US tolerate defeat in Iran? Or will they launch even deadlier strikes again? One making, like I've said before, when the war was hot, it still kind of is lukewarmish, hottish sometimes, but when the war was going on, I said this multiple times. Even if the Americans nuke Iran, it's not going to make any difference. The Iranians will keep fighting and the Americans can't win. Right? So what's the deadliest thing they can launch? What's the deadliest strike they can launch? Nuclear warheads, right? Won't make any difference. The Iranians will still keep fighting. And Iran's geography is such that you can't destroy Iran even with nukes. That's just too many mountains. It's too mountainous. It's like a fortress. So if you detonate a nuclear warhead somewhere, it's not going to spread out everywhere, the destruction. It's going to stay confined within the valleys and so on. So overall, it won't work. And nuclear warheads aren't something super special. It's just one kind of explosion. Of course, it releases radiation and so on. That you can keep fighting. So yeah, that won't work. Now, how can a guy like Trump and a country like the US tolerate defeat in Iran? It's intolerable, especially to Trump. Trump is super frustrated. He's not going to come out in the news in public and say, I'm super frustrated, I'm not happy. He won't say any of that. He won't say anything like that. He keeps claiming that he has defeated Iran, right? How many times has he defeated Iran completely? How many times has he sent the Iranian Navy to the bottom of the sea? Right? He keeps making these claims, but obviously he's lying. Everyone knows that by now. No one takes his pronouncements seriously anymore. So Trump is extremely frustrated. The US doesn't tolerate this sort of thing. And there's the midterms coming up. Last quarter, I think, of this year. October, November, probably November. So the Republicans may experience a big defeat in the midterms in the US. And if that happens, Trump would end up becoming a lame duck president. So we will see the result of this during the midterms. Are the Americans okay with what Trump is doing, or are they going to hand him a big defeat? All right. Anirudh Arya says, I read an article stating that explaining why hotter countries are poorer. Every 1 degree increase in temperature leads to decreased productivity of human. There's something called recency bias. Right now, the Western nations are super rich because they've plundered the rest of the world and accumulated all the wealth, stolen all the wealth, right? If you look at India's GDP across the centuries, India was historically the world's largest economy. From 1 AD to until the 1700s AD, India was the world's largest economy. That's not me making a statement out of thin air. That is Angus Madison's research, The American Economist, which is globally accepted. Okay? India's economy accounted for at least 1/3 of the global GDP. That's how enormous India's economy was. Now, how do you explain that with temperature now? So this is BS. Don't believe all this. I've seen such articles. Don't pay attention. Come on. Let's see what else. Okay, Aniket says, according to you, how many civilizational states are there in the world? Well, I could say 0. I could say, is India truly a civilizational state today? To be very honest, it's no longer a civilization. It can return to being a civilization quickly in 20, 25 years. Yes. But right now, India does not really fit the bill of an active civilization. India has the weight of thousands of years of history behind it. So if India's leaders choose, they can revert India to being a full-fledged active civilization quickly. But right now, India is not one. Neither is China. But if you want to relax the definitions and all, I would say India is a civilizational state, sure, and China is one. Which other nation can I think of as being a civilizational state? Is Greece a civilizational state? Well, does Greece follow its ancient culture and religion? No, that was smashed out of Greece. So Greece is no longer a civilizational state. Do they worship their old gods and goddesses? They don't. So how is it a civilizational state today? It's not, unfortunately. What else do we have? Yeah, I can't think of any others. See, if you really want to relax the definitions and take liberties, then you would say India and China. Yeah. Okay. What else do we have? Did you watch Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary? I did not watch it, but I'm aware of the result. I think Islam Makhachev won, right? Team Khabib. So I haven't seen it, but yeah. Okay. Gaurav Jat Mamli says, why do Indians have a crab mentality in general? Why can't Indian people think in win-win? Why for Indians to shine, the other person must fall down? I have the answer for this. It's a very simple answer. India is a land of artificial scarcity. Everything is available in limited quantities. If you want to get in education, if you want to go to higher education, you want to go to college, university, are seats available? No, there are very few seats that are made available to you, and everybody has to fight for those. Artificial scarcity. There's artificial scarcity for everything. Jobs, again, artificial scarcity. There is a scarcity for everything. Indians since the 20th century have been made to stand in lines, in queues for hours and hours and hours. And there is no incentive for playing by the rules, for not pushing others down or whatever. You've got to win. Let's say you have a child, and let's say it's a boy or a girl, whatever, okay? And your kid wants to enroll in a certain college or certain university. And there's a tremendous competition. There's very few seats available. So that's why you have coaching classes that do things. That's why you have exam leaks, not allegedly, truly, it's a fact. Because there's no incentive to play by the rules. If you play by the rules, you're a loser. You end up losing. So why not bend the rules and do things? Right? So when you're participating in such schemes, let's say, benefiting from exam leaks, you're pushing others down who are not playing, who are playing by the rules, right? And typically there's no punishment for it. So if you play by the rules, you end up being left on the wayside. And if you bend the rules, you win, you get what you want. So this is all because of this situation that's been created by the Indian state, artificial scarcity of everything. When you're a foreigner who visits India, you land in India, you get off the airport, you go outside, immediately you'll see taxi guys, etc., trying to scam the foreigners. Oh, please come to my sit in my taxi, I'll charge only 5,000 rupees, that sort of thing. Why? Because there's no consequences for behaving like this, and there is a tremendous scarcity of fares. So you have too many taxi drivers, and there's only a limited number of passengers who come in. So they all have to fight among each other, right? So this you will see all across India because of artificial scarcity. So it's not the fault of the people of India. They've just adapted to the situation. They've just adapted. Right. Okay. Short GK fact says, can YouTube videos replace traditional learning? If yes, if they can, to how much extent? YouTube videos cannot replace traditional learning. Okay? YouTube videos can serve as an introduction to a subject or a field or a topic. Okay? But they can't replace traditional learning. How much information can I give you, let's say, per minute in a live stream or a video? I can give you much more information on a piece of paper let's say you read 100 words per minute. I don't know what the average reading speed is, but you will be able to absorb much more information by reading and much more detailed, structured information. These live streams and YouTube videos are typically not that well structured and they're not really information dense. So, YouTube videos cannot replace traditional learning. No. See, YouTube videos, it's like you're sitting and watching something passively. Traditional learning is an active process. You can't learn by just watching something passively. You have to participate in the process of absorbing information. So active learning involves writing things down, writing your own thoughts down, maybe solving problems. That's totally different, and that's the more effective way of learning things. Okay, what else do we have? Arjun says, is a war with Pakistan feasible without full squadron strength, even after we get drone swarms? Look, full squadron strength, you mean fighter planes, right? Fighter jets. So India, what's the sanctioned number of squadrons? 42, and India has about 28, 29 now. So a massive, significant shortfall of the number of squadrons, right, in the Indian Air Force. We would like to have 42 squadrons. We have 29 or 20, whatever it is. And that is obviously an issue. But the fact is that today in the 21st century, you can have missiles and drones do everything fighter planes do without putting the lives of your pilots in jeopardy. You want to hit a target, you can launch a missile, a cruise missile, super accurate cruise missiles. You can hit Noor Khan Air Base if you want. So why do you need to send a fighter plane all the way? Send a cruise missile. Send drone swarms. Send loitering drones, kamikaze drones. You will achieve everything you want to achieve without sending fighter planes in over hostile territory and putting the lives of your pilots in danger. Right? Maybe fighter jets may be useful from a defensive perspective to some extent, perhaps. If they fly over your own territory and defend your territory, maybe, yeah. And of course, there also you will need your own multi-layered air defense, and that even that can take care of most of what fighter planes do. So I think India needs to go in that direction. India is being hamstrung right now by the Americans, by the United States government. India has, for some fantastic reason, decided to go with General Electric jet engines, and they are not delivering. That's why the India's Tejas program is right now kind of tied up. You have all these aircraft that have been tested, but that are sitting waiting for engines, and the engines aren't coming. I don't know who decided that we're going to rely on American jet engines, but this is what happened. So I think it's still fine. Even if you have fewer squadrons, as long as you have drones and missiles at scale, you're going to be fine. Okay. Anabil Sarkar asks me a question I've answered 300 times, but okay. If the Big Bang happened from a single point, where in space is that point? It's right here. It's also where you are. Okay. So what was the Big Bang? It was the very rapid expansion of space-time. So at time t equal to 0 in the universe, in the history of the universe. See, right now, the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. If you wind the clock backwards, then you go back to time t equal to 0. At time t equal to 0, which is when time actually starts, that was the moment of the expansion of space-time. So at that point, at that time, everything in the universe that you see, all the stars, all the galaxies, everything you see was all concentrated into a single tiny point. Everything was concentrated into a single tiny point of incredible density and incredible density, right? And then that expanded. So the Big Bang happened from a single point, but the entire universe was in that single point. So the Big Bang happened right here. It happened where you're sitting. It happened the moon, Jupiter, Saturn, Andromeda galaxy, wherever. It happened everywhere at the same time. All of this came out of that. Make sense? Hopefully it does. Yes. All right. Okay. Desert Dweller says, you talk about American decline, but why does everyone still want to come here? I hope people think we are so less come. I do not talk about American decline. See, this nuance, we have to please understand nuance. How many times have I said that the US has never been as powerful as it is right now? The US has never had as many extraterritorial military bases as it has today. The US military budget is the highest it's ever been. The US is at the forefront of technological breakthroughs such as AI and whatnot. The US has never been as powerful as it is right now. Where have I spoken about American decline? I'm talking about when I speak about decline in response to questions, I talk about the decline of the standards in societal standards, right? If you look, say you visited San Francisco in the year 2000, and if you visit San Francisco today, you will see a visible decline in living standards, in the quality of life, in law and order, all of that. That's a decline. Go to New York. You go to New York in 2000, you go to New York today, you will see a visible decline. Your standards are declining domestically. Military power, geopolitical hard power, never been as high as it is right now. Please understand nuance. Okay. Now, why do people still want to come to the US? Because the US is still this great shining thing on the hill, whatever it was, right? And it still has higher standards, living standards, and so on, than a lot of all third world countries. So people still want to go there. Make sense? I hope it does. Yes. Okay. Let's see what else. Commando says, can we expect a revolt in China and North Korea in coming years, given the situation and suppression of public? No. See, when do revolts happen in China? First of all, North Korea is a Chinese vassal. It's a Chinese protectorate. It's very strongly aligned with China. So China, as long as China is strong and powerful, it will never allow a revolt to occur in North Korea. Because if a revolt happens in North Korea, who does it benefit? Who benefits from that? Obviously the US, right? So it is not in China's interests to allow any sort of revolt to happen in North Korea. If something happens, they're going to intervene militarily, the Chinese. Now, coming to China. Historically, China has had revolts. Massive revolts and revolutions, not revolutions, civil wars. And these are part of the cyclical process of Chinese history, the dynastic cycles. So when do these revolts and civil wars happen? They happen when the ruling regime becomes too weak to rule the country effectively, which means that they lose the so-called mandate of heaven. As long as the Chinese Communist Party does a good job of controlling the nation, controlling the people, and maintaining law and order and reasonable living standards and so on, there's going to be no revolt in China. I don't expect to see a revolt in China anytime soon, unless something drastically strange happens, which the Chinese Communist Party will not want to see happen. So I don't expect a revolt. Domestic politics, I will not cover. I don't do that. Okay, I think I should now, get into the super chats. So let's do super chats now. All right, Akshay Sharma, no question. Thank you so much, Akshay Sharma. Thank you. Right, Mary Kane. Good morning, Mary. Good morning. Always good to see you. Mary says, is India best viewed as not as one set post 1947 English border, but a decentralized tri-Indosphere, a resilient tripartite circulatory matrix composed of heart, mind, and soul components? So what's the best way to see India today? Well, today, there's multiple ways of seeing India. The simplest, straightforward way of seeing India is to see India as a nation state with the currently defined borders that India has, right? The borders that were mostly drawn on as lines on the map by the British before they left. So that's the simplest way of looking at India. A nation state that came into existence officially per the United Nations in 1947. And that's why a lot of people say India did not exist before 1947, all that blah, blah, blah. Those people are talking out of their backsides, obviously. Sorry to say that. Okay, now, the other way of looking at India is that India is a civilization state. Because India has always, Indian culture and civilization, it's a real thing. It has very clear specific characteristics. Essentially, the same way of life, the same set of morals and ethics, a single civilizational language, and so many other factors that make India a civilization. And all of this has historically, for millennia, had a home in the Indian subcontinent, the overall greater Indian subcontinent, let's say, which included Tibet, which included Uttar Kuru, which is parts of Central Asia. Afghanistan obviously is subcontinent, and so on. You can even say that Iran is kind of a continuation of that. Persia, and the Indosphere overall is a much broader expanse of territory, which extended all the way to the Philippines historically in the east. So that's historical civilizational India. So do we have a decentralized tri-Indosphere today, a resilient tripartite circulatory matrix composed of heart, mind, and soul components? So you're clearly talking about civilization here. So civilization would have heart, mind, and soul components. What would be the mind component? It would be the, let's say the texts, the philosophical texts, which are written down. So they kind of lay down a set of rules or laws of, what are the ethics of Indian civilization? What are the values that are cherished and upheld in Indian civilization? What are the stories and the wisdom? What's the wisdom that's passed down over the centuries and millennia by the ancestors of Indians and so on? So that's kind of the mind, the written down operating system, kind of. The heart, that also has a heart component, because the ethics, the values, the morals, that's the heart. The soul is the greater overall ethos of India's civilization. Is it resilient today? It's not that resilient today anymore, but it's not like it's not resilient. It's not that resilient today, and that's why it's kind of declining. I mean, there's lots of Indians who are deracinated, who are not aware of what their own history and culture is, what their own civilizational values are, and so on. There's so many Indians who are in that situation, especially the younger generations. Every new generation is progressively more deracinated than the previous one. This can all be obviously fixed, so it's not like it's a lost case. That's not true. So it has been resilient because it has survived and thrived for millennia. Perhaps today it faces its biggest challenges, right? The aftermath of roughly 1,000 years of foreign occupation. So yeah, a civilization can be thought of as being a circulatory matrix composed of heart, mind, and soul components. Yes, so India does obviously fit that bill, but it's not that resilient right now. It needs to rediscover its resilience. But yeah, is India a decentralized tri-Indosphere? But historically, it was decentralized, right? You had periods of time when India was ruled by a single emperor, but that was not always the case. Lots of times, India was decentralized. You had all these little medium or even small kingdoms that were spread across the subcontinent and beyond. So during those times, it was very much decentralized. So India is complicated, right? It depends on what lens you use to view history. If you look at history from a post 1947 perspective, you will see a very flawed and distorted picture of India. If you look at India's history post, let's say 1500s, you'll see a different picture. If you see India's history post 1000 AD, you'll see a different picture, and so on. So the wider you make your lens and the deeper you go in history, the better the picture that you get. Okay, Sharma says all this forced sattvic pure veg BS is rendering our nation malnourished and fat. People should be more logical. Look, it's a matter of personal choice. I would say that, look, let everyone live their life the way they want to live. Uh, I would not impose my preferred lifestyle and dietary choices on others. I would not want others to impose their choices and lifestyle on mine. And I would not go ahead and claim that, X dietary choice is better than Y dietary choice. Let people do their thing. I would say that, look, the sattvic pure veg lifestyle is not for everybody. It's not for everyone. If you want to be a soldier, if you want to be, an athlete, it won't work for you. If you have a sattvic pure veg diet, it won't work for you. You won't be able to build muscle mass if you're a male. You won't be able to build sufficient muscle mass if you're male, because the pure veg diet is protein deficient. No question about that. You can eat pulses and stuff, but that comes with an overload of carbohydrates. So the cleanest way to eat protein is to obviously eat meat. That's just a fact. If it offends people, so be it. My point is, look, live your life the way you want to live it. If you enjoy a non-vegetarian diet, that's your choice. If you prefer a sattvic veg diet, that's your choice. India is a massive nation with a massive population, a very diverse set of lifestyles. Let people make their choices, right? That's what I would say. Sharma once again says, if I ever have a British girlfriend, she'll pay for everything. Could I get them reparations somehow? Thank you so much for making me so patriotic, Jai Hind, sir. Look, if you have a British girlfriend, you should. I know you're kidding here, but look, you don't take it out on someone, especially when they had nothing to do with what happened, right, during the British occupation. But anyway, I know you're kidding over here, so all right. All right. Okay. Akshay Sharma says, Abhijit ji, I want to know what is the Penrose process. Oh, well, physics. Penrose process. What is the Penrose process? Oh, well, we're jumping from history and geopolitics straight into physics. And we're talking about general relativity here. Roger Penrose, he came up with this idea. So what is the Penrose process? First of all, understand. I think this will do. Okay, it's a black hole. Let's say this is a black hole, okay? And this, obviously, it's not a black hole, but let's consider it to be a black hole. And let's say this is the event horizon, the point of no return, the boundary of no return of a black hole. If you cross that, you cannot come out no matter what happens. Even a photon, a particle of light, can't come out if it crosses the event horizon, okay? Now, most black holes spin. They spin this way or that. There's a spin associated with the black hole, because that's how black holes form, by particles falling into something and forming a whirlpool kind of thing. So black holes spin. And because of the spin that black holes have, they obviously have the event horizon. But beyond the event horizon, there's this area, okay? There's this region, not area, region, that's called the ergosphere. Ergosphere. Something very fascinating and weird and strange happens in the ergosphere. Space-time itself is dragged by the black hole. So if you are in the ergosphere, you can't stay still. You are dragged along by space-time itself. Space-time itself is in motion in the ergosphere. Okay? So you have the event horizon, then you have the ergosphere. So Roger Penrose, okay, what he said is, let's say you shoot a particle at the black hole and the particle enters the ergosphere. And then what you do is you have the particle break up into two pieces, like that. And you have, what was the thing? You have one of the pieces of the particle. So now the particle is broken into two. It carries the same energy, right? It carries the same energy, but one of the particles, it goes into the ergosphere and it is fired backward. It is fired backward against the rotation. Okay, it is fired backward against the rotation of the black hole. So if the black hole is rotating like this, you fire the particle in the other direction, the direction opposite to the rotation of the black hole, and that particle then enters the event horizon, which means it is absorbed by the black hole. Now, because it is going in the direction opposite to the spin, the rotation, it will cause the rotation of the black hole to slow down just a tiny bit. And because of that, because of the conservation of energy, the other particle, which was part of the original particle, it will exit the ergosphere with more speed than it entered with. So that way, you can make the black hole pay the bill. You can actually steal energy from a black hole, essentially. And what was the thing? About 27 or 29% of a black hole's energy can be stolen in this manner before you bring the black hole to a complete halt and it stops spinning and becomes a Schwarzschild black hole. So that essentially, in brief, is the Penrose process. Very interesting that you come up with this. Okay, the Penrose process. Very interesting. Ishan Das says, what do you think differentiates a nation state and a civilization in the context of Bharat specifically and generally? Look, I have 14 characteristics that I've listed down for a civilization. Do I have it somewhere? Look, because if I tell you extempore, I will miss some of that. So there are 14 characteristics of a civilization. Let me pull up the document if I have it somewhere. Do I have it somewhere? I am sure I have it somewhere. What are the characteristics of a civilization state as opposed to a nation state? Give me a second. I'll put it here and I'll read it out. I'll not put it on the screen. Okay. So, a civilization is an advanced society which is characterized by, first of all, a highly evolved, give me a second, a highly evolved and institutionalized indigenous culture. Okay? So that's the first characteristic of a civilization state. It's an advanced society that's characterized by, firstly, a highly evolved and institutionalized indigenous culture. Institutionalized. That's number one. Secondly, it has its laws, constitution, and institutions that are grounded in its indigenous culture and indigenous values and indigenous morality. Number three, it has an indigenous system of governance. Indigenous system of governance, not a system of governance that has come from abroad. Okay. Next, a highly organized society. Proper division of labor, subdivision of labor, subdivision of labor. Highly organized society, which means a stratified society. But if you take a snapshot, it looks stratified, but you should have social mobility. That's a different story. So, a highly organized society. Next, it has a high degree of societal and political stability. Yes? All right. Next, it has a single civilizational language. It may have lots of local languages, but it has one single civilizational language that nobody questions. No matter what their own local language is, they all recognize this is our civilization language, which may not necessarily be their mother tongue, but it will be closely related to their mother tongue, most likely. So it has a single civilizational language. Next, it has a large geographic area. Can't be a valley somewhere or something, right? There's a large geographic area. Next, it has a powerful economy. Without a powerful economy, you are no civilization. You may have been in the past, but if you don't have a powerful economy, you are not a civilization. Next, a powerful military. Because without a military, what are you going to do? You may have the best temples, you may have the best art, you may have the best universities, but if you don't have a powerful military, what's the point of having all of those things? Ask yourselves, my dear Indians. Yeah. So it has a powerful military. Next, it has high levels of prosperity. If you are dirt poor, you are not civilized, by the way. Okay? Your ancestors may have been civilized, but if you are dirt poor, you are not civilized. It's as simple as that. Civilization thrives in prosperity. If there's no prosperity, there is no civilization. Everyone goes back to the basics. They leak exam papers, they scam everybody, they don't stand in queue, they cut the queue, they don't have civic sense, they break the traffic rules. There's no traffic rules, there's nobody enforces them. That's what happens when you have no when you don't have high levels of prosperity. Next, a civilization has a large sphere of economic, military, and cultural influence that extends well beyond its borders. Next, a civilization has its own script or scripts of writing that have evolved and developed indigenously in its own geography. Next, a civilization has its own calendar, its own system of timekeeping. It does not use some foreign calendar, it uses its own calendar. And next, a civilization is the net exporter of culture, not importer of culture. These are the characteristics of a civilization. This is my definition. You will not find this in any textbook anywhere. No sociology textbook, no anthropology textbook, no history textbook, no textbook, no book, nowhere. This is my definition. This is my original thinking. Okay? Eventually somebody will try and steal that too. That's fine. But it's mine. I came up with this. So that's the difference between a nation state and a civilization. If you can define a civilization, then you can ask yourself, does your nation state have those characteristics? And then you can answer the question yourself. So ask yourselves, my dear viewers, those 14 characteristics I listed, how many of those are a green check mark for Bharat today? Ask yourselves this question. Okay. Kanishka Kaushik says, what are your views on Independence Day Prime Minister's speech? I have no views because I didn't listen to it. I was traveling. Yesterday I was traveling. So I didn't listen to it. And look, I don't care about speeches. I don't care about words. All I care about is actions. So I have no idea what the Honorable Shri Prime Minister ji said. I'm sure it would have been very important, etc. But I haven't had the opportunity to listen to it. So, no views. Ayush's thoughts on somebody? No, I have no idea. No thoughts on anybody. Somalia Paul says the 1.9 thousand year gap between the end of the IVC and the Mahajanapadas. Is it possible that Republican governance was a continuation of the IVC? The Mahajanapadas, they begin what? About 500, 600 BC, around that time? Yeah. I don't know what Wikipedia will tell you. Let's go and ask Wikipedia. When does the Mahajanapada era start? I would say 500, 600 BC, maybe before that. So, here we have it. When did the Mahajanapada era start? Okay, it's actually saying what I just said. Around 600 BC. All right. The end of the IVC. Now, this is the question, the real question. Did the IVC ever end? It's not like yesterday you had IVC, today it ended, and everyone decided to leave, and they just abandoned the cities overnight. No, no, no. It was a long process that took about 1,000 years. The cities were gradually, very slowly abandoned and depopulated over a period of roughly 1,000 years. So it's not like the IVC ends 1500 BC or 2000 BC and the Mahajanapada start, 6th century BC. The IVC gradually dispersed the people of the IVC, the Indus Valley civilization, which is some separate civilization, right? It disappeared somewhere. We have no idea who those people were and where they went. Those people were your ancestors, dear Indians. All of you have IVC ancestry. And the culture and religion you follow today is something that has come from there. Your ancestors from the IVC period practiced the same religion and culture. I know it's very controversial because Romila Thapar will disagree. I don't give a damn what she says. So the IVC was not some strange lost civilization mysteriously disappeared. What utter nonsense. That's us. We are the continuation of that. The IVC never ended. It still exists. It's us. Okay. And when did the cities get abandoned? The process began around slowly, gradually 2000 BC, and probably by 1000 or 8 BC or 800 BC, the cities were to a large extent abandoned. Why would such a thing happen? Climate change. Climate change. The great river dried up. The great river dried up. Climate change happened. And it did not happen over a couple of weeks. It happened very slowly. The process began around 6000 BC. That's when the Indian rainy season, the monsoon, started declining very slowly, very slowly. So if you go back to 6000 BC, the Indian monsoon was much heavier than what you have today. And that's why you had this great, massive, magnificent river, the greatest river of our civilization, the Saraswati, right? The mother of floods. That was 6000 BC. And slowly the decline on the monsoon happened. And by about 2000 BC or 1500 BC, the Saraswati was almost gone, at least in the southern half of her course. The river still exists up north. It's seasonal. When it rains, it floods. For a brief while, the mother of floods is back, and then it declines and disappears. The Gaggar Hakra, it's called today. So that's what happened. And because the Saraswati dried up and the monsoons declined significantly to like present day, rainfall, the kind of rainfall you get today. So that's why people could no longer sustain massive population centers in India's northwest. The region was from northern Maharashtra all the way to almost Gandhar. That was the massive region of the IVC. So people then eventually slowly moved away from those big cities because most of those big cities and even small towns were built on the banks of the Saraswati. And the river, if you don't have a river there, what you going to do? You have to move elsewhere. So some people moved westwards and went away, never came back. And some people moved eastwards and formed the Mahajanapadas. That's how it went. All right. Everything was a continuation of the IVC. It is very possible that their republican governance was a continuation of the way the IVC was governed. Yes. Okay. Chill Panda says, why is it that no one likes that they have Indian adore US infrastructure and want India to be like that, while Americans hate their car dependent infrastructure and want it to be walkable like Europe? You see, it's human psychology. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Okay. What I have isn't good enough. I want what they have. So in the US, look, if you are in India, this massively congested, overcrowded subcontinent, and if you visit the US, you will be struck. If you visit the US for the first time, you travel by road, let's say, across the states, you will be struck by how empty the country is, how empty the continent is, how vast the landscapes are when you don't see human beings. Go through Nevada, Colorado, Utah. You can drive for tens of miles without seeing another human being, right? So that's why Indians, and they have great infrastructure compared to what you have in India. So Indians obviously find that awe-inspiring. They find it fantastic, and you can't blame Indians for that. Now the Americans, if you're an American, you've lived there forever. Some Americans may not like the fact that you have to. Everything is dependent on automobiles. You don't have, let's say, a large-scale rail network like what you have in India or China or whatever, or Europe. In the US, if you want to travel, you can either fly or you can go by car. You have Greyhound buses, you have some railroads, but mostly people just drive or fly. That's it. That's about it. And driving is kind of, if you want to drive coast to coast, it will take you a few days. How many kilometers can you drive in a day? Maybe 1,000 no, 1,000. I suppose you can drive 1,000 kilometers. So it'll take you 3-4 days, that sort of thing. And so many Americans may not like it that we are dependent on automobiles. They've made us consumers of automobiles, and maybe we should have a different kind of thing. And in the US, it's such a vast country that if you are at home and you want to, let's say, fill gas in your car, you may have to drive a few miles to do that. So everyone drives. If you want to go somewhere, you drive, and then it becomes a habit. Even if you want to go next door, you just drive there. You don't walk. And Europe is very different. Obviously, it's a very walkable place. So it's everyone wants something else. Everyone wants something different. Everyone feels that what they have on the other side of the fence is better. Human psychology. Okay. Bharat says Indian boxer Maricom is cool, speaks Hindi. Thoughts? Fantastic. Cool. What else thoughts? Cool. Samrat Shukla, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Adrianopoulos says, are Indians new Jews creating large diaspora in the West? Indians are nothing like Jews. Creating a large diaspora in the West. I would not say Indians are the new Jews. No. No, Indians are very different from Jews. Very different. Bharat says, look up China CCP official Israel Epstein. Yeah, I will look it up. Not right now. All right, I'll look it up. Thank you. Somalia Paul says, why is Indian bureaucracy an abusive stranglehold rather than serving? Is it global? No, it's not global. Also, US Clarity Act versus crypto rule global impact. Okay, I don't know about this Clarity Act, but why is the Indian bureaucracy, why does the bureaucracy have a stranglehold over India, and why don't they serve India? It's the way the system is constructed. See, the Indian bureaucracy is the continuation of the Indian bureaucracy under British occupation. The Indian bureaucracy was created by the British, to serve the foreign occupiers of India. It was called the Indian Civil Services. And that was the way it is structured, and the way it functions, etc., has never been reformed. Never. So it simply continues. It's still essentially structurally the same colonial architecture, the same colonial organism, you could say. And if the British had created the bureaucracy to serve the masters and oppress the population, the structure is still the same. I'm not saying the bureaucracy is oppressing Indians, but the bureaucracy is its own thing now. No, they don't really have any masters. Without the bureaucracy, India grinds to a halt. Without the bureaucracy, Indian governance grinds to a halt. So, and you can't fire a bureaucrat. You can't dismiss a bureaucrat from service. All you can do is suspend them for a bit or transfer them somewhere else because of the law. I mean, I think it's one of the articles or sections in the Constitution or the laws or whatever it is. Yeah. You simply can't do it. And no politician wants to change that for some reason. Yeah. Right. It's not a global phenomenon. It's not. It's a very Indian thing. It's only in India that you have this. Maybe Pakistan. I don't know how it is in Pakistan. Okay. A US Clarity Act versus crypto ruble global impact. I have no idea what that is. Well, let me see. What is the US Clarity Act? US Clarity Act. Okay, what is that? The Clarity Act is a proposed US federal law designed to establish a comprehensive market structure and regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies and digital assets, and so on and so forth. I have not gone through this. I will not go through it right now. So I will have to say I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't gone through the details. Okay, Bharat says, do you think Jaichand backstabbing Prithviraj Chauhan story is real? No, it's not. It's not a real story. No. Maharaj Jayachandra was not a backstabber. Samrat Shukla says, why Netaji said Mohandas Gandhi Mahatma, didn't he know him? Why, do you understand the difference between words and actions? Indians are so obsessed with words. Arey, usne aisa keh diya. Arey, unhone unko aisa bol diya. Arey, who cares kya bol diya, bhai? Look at the actions. Why are Indians so obsessed with words? It's not your fault. The education system makes you focus and obsess over words. It ingrains that habit into you. It conditions you mentally to focus on words and ignore actions. You have to ignore words and focus on actions of a ruler, of a leader. I don't care what X said about Y. It doesn't matter. Somali Paul says, I got to know Persia invading Greece wasn't an unprovoked expansion. Athens poked the bear while they handled Scythians up north, unlike what movies show. You see, the official story and the real story are often very different. Um, yeah, see, Persia, Athens poked the bear. It sounds like you're talking about Russia over here because Russia is typically the bear. But yeah, see, Persia had an issue with those who lived up north, right? The Scythians. The Scythians were nomadic and did not want to be anyone's vassal. And when Persia was pretty powerful under Kurush, uh, right? Kurush, Vajrak, Cyrus the Great. So Kurush decided that I'm gonna defeat the Scythians and vassalize them or take over the territories. So he went up north into Central Asia, present day Central Asia, and he was like, okay, I'm going to defeat the Scythians. The Scythians are like, no, we're not interested. We don't want to fight you. We have unlimited territory. We'll just keep on, retreating. And while retreating, we will employ the scorched earth policy. We're going to destroy everything of value. You will find nothing of value. We will destroy all farms. We will destroy all crops. We will leave nothing for your men to use. So Kurush went ahead and pursued the Scythians, etc. And eventually, what happened is that there was a battle, and there was treachery involved. Treachery. The treachery was that the Scythians, the Mahajata, the Masagate, they had a queen, Tamri. In Greek, she's called Tomyris. Her name was Tamri. So Tamri had a son. What was her name? What was his name? Swarga, something like that. Okay. So they poisoned his wine, or they got him intoxicated and then killed her son and so on. Something like that happened. So her son was killed by the Persians, and this lady, she said, okay, I'm gonna teach the Persians a lesson. So then there was a battle between the Scythians and the Persians, and she killed Kurush. Yeah, and took his head. That's the story. But was there Greek involvement? I'm sure there was Greek involvement because, always help your enemies' enemies and that sort of thing. Because Greece and Persia were the two big geopolitical rivals. Persia always expanded westwards, never ever eastwards. So Greece was a target, always. Right, okay. Saptarshi Chakraborty says, who will win, 15th century Indian warrior versus European knight? 15th century Indian warrior versus European knight. Okay, let's have them fight in India, huh? The European knight wearing his full battle armor, I don't know, 150 kilos at least, steel. Come fight in India, in the Indian heat. Ajao. Come. All the Indian warrior has to do is to get this guy running in circles. And he will overheat and die right there of heat exhaustion. Yay, we win. Hariom says, on nukes, you said North Korea may have developed their own. It's not that hard. Pakistan couldn't have. It's too hard. Likely US owned. Did you really mean both? I meant both. Yes, I meant both. Yes. See, North Korea has an education system. Pakistan's education system is worse than India's education system. I think North Korea's education system is actually pretty competent. And their engineers are really great. Pakistan is a feudal nation. So I genuinely believe both. And you know what? When it comes to North Korea, I don't think they developed their nukes entirely on their own. They would have gotten some assistance of some kind. Maybe from China, maybe from Russia, maybe from both. Some kind of, a few hints here and there. Aisa karne ka, waisa karne ka, that sort of thing. Right? Maybe some design on a piece of paper. They would have gotten some help, North Korea. Pakistan, I don't see them being able to develop nuclear weapons on their own. I really mean that. Okay, Memologypedia says, why has love become so complicated, like situationships and different Gen Z terms? There is no age of love, but according to you, what is right age of love? There is no age of love. What is situationships? I have no idea what a situationship is. Your people are overcomplicating things. None of these concepts are Indian concepts. You're importing weird stuff from the West and superimposing it and force fitting it onto the Indian context. What's a situationship? Let me try. I'm scared to even Google that. What is a situationship? No official label or clear commitment. I have no idea what this is and what this nonsense is. Yeah, so this is not love. This is stupidity. You want to do that? Do that. It's your choice. I'm not passing judgment on you, but from my perspective, this is what is this love? Obviously, it's not love. It's a transactional thing. Uh, so it's up to you whether you want to make it complicated or simple. It's your choice. If you love somebody, but that person wants a situationship, you are not compatible. Move on. Move on. Be sensible. And what's the thing about trying 78 different situationships before eventually finding the right person, which never comes? What is this nonsense? Anyway, maybe I'm too old fashioned by now, whatever it is. But what is the right age of love? You can love what at any age. You can love at the age of 3. You can love nature. You can love your parents. You can love your siblings. You can love your pets. Love is a sentiment. It's a feeling. It's an emotion, right? When you see something and that thing uplifts you, that is love. That can apply to a landscape. It can apply to a painting. It can apply to a piece of music. It can apply to a piece of architecture. It can apply to a person. And there are different kinds of love, platonic love and non-platonic love and so much more, even between people. But that's very simple compared to what people are now situationships and things like that. I have no idea what that is. That's not love, okay? That's just transactional behavior. And that, at the end of the day, will leave you feeling empty. That there's no value in human relationships. That's what you will eventually end up feeling if you do all these things. So my point is, there is no right or wrong age of love. You can love at any age. But let's not overcomplicate things unnecessarily, right? Why has love become so complicated? Because you're importing these stupid concepts from the West. That's why. Western society has declined very badly, and whatever is happening in the West is being exported from the US. The French first exported their stuff to the US, and then now these Americans have internalized that, and now they're exporting it back to the world. Why do we need that? Or because America is so cool, so we will copy it. That's why. That's an inferiority complex, bro. Kakashi says, one of two. INS Indians simp for West right-wing politics in Israel, as both are against Islam, terror, migrants, believe in democracy, capitalism. Both have anti-national left wing. So Indians simp for, you're saying that Indians simp for Western right-wing politics and for Israel, because both Western right-wing politics in Israel are anti-Islam, anti-terror, anti-migrants. They believe in democracy, capitalism. Both have anti-national left wing. Okay, though in the West, right wing is anti-national and stupid too. Unlike other global South nations like Latin America, India lacks patriotic left wingers and communists. CPIM is anti-Hindu. Okay, I will not make any comment about the domestic politics angle over here. But does India lack overall patriotic left wing communists? Yeah. You see, if you look at communist countries historically, whether it's the Bolsheviks, whether it's the Russian communists, whether it is the Chinese communists, whether it is the Cuban communists and so on, they were all patriots. They were all patriots. They served their nation in their own way through communism. Okay? What about India's communists? Right? That's a big, interesting question. So in the West, right wing is anti-national. In the West, the right wing is international. Okay, I'm not sure how that works, but okay, if you say so. And stupid too, yeah. Look, every wing is stupid in at certain levels. Um, so overall, much of what you say makes sense, and I would overall broadly agree with you. Look, Indians have an inferiority complex. Okay, let's not make any bones about that. Indians have a massive inferiority complex. The average Indian is very has a big inferiority complex compared. They feel inferior compared to people from Western nations, and that's why it's very natural for Indians to simp for Westerners, especially when they see something that some kind of political movement there that India should have in their view. So yeah, overall, I would largely, to a large extent, agree with you. Okay, okay. Kakashi says if India opened a road after she, whole media would go mad. You mean if India names a road after Xi Jinping, the whole media would go mad? Okay. But we opened a new avenue named after Trump, our enemy, because Sergio Gore told us to. Has the road in India been avenue in India been named after Trump? Has a new avenue in India been named after Donald Trump? A stretch of road in Hyderabad's financial district, located directly beside the US consulate, was officially renamed and inaugurated as Donald Trump Avenue. Okay, fantastic. I mean, no comments because this is domestic politics, but but yeah, what on earth? I don't know if Sergio Gore told us to or not, but what on earth? Why do you want to name an avenue after US president, the current serving US president, one who is overtly hostile to India? Makes no sense. What is Hindutva? I don't know. I know what our culture is, our civilization is. I don't know what Hindutva is. Some people define Hindutva as Hinduism that resists. Maybe that is what Hindutva is. So Hinduism and Hindutva, are they different? Hinduism, this ism suffix is obviously a foreign thing, and they use it to kind of narrowly define India's religion, indigenous religion. But if you look at the actual the truth about what India's indigenous religion is, it's not a religion in the Western from the Western perspective, from the Western way of defining religions. You don't have one book, one prophet, and one god, right? It's a very different culture we have over here in India. And it's not one path that we have in so-called Hinduism. We have lots of different philosophical schools of thought that have very different worldviews, at least on paper. The values, ethics, morals, all that are the same. Whether it is whichever philosophical school of thought, even both the Jain or whatever. So calling this thing Hinduism and pigeonholing it like that is not correct. Now, what is Hindutva? It's a newer movement, obviously. That's something that's emerged in the past 100 or 150 years. Perhaps I could be wrong. I have not studied this in detail, but I think one of the popular definitions of Hindutva is it is Hinduism that resists. So are you saying that Hindus never resisted before? Or maybe all the Hindus who resisted in the past 1000, 1500 years were Hindutva people? I'm not sure what the definition is. I may not be the right person to answer that question. Somalia Paul says, how did ancient kingdoms manage borders? Were there checkposts? Did they use cartography and land records to define their territorial limits? You would have obviously checkposts. Yes. You would have clearly defined borders, but I don't know if you had proper maps like you have today. Today, you have very accurate maps because of satellite imagery. So you know exactly what the land borders are, where the rivers are, where the mountains are, what the topography is, and so on. In the past, you did not have accurate maps. You had maps, but they would typically not be very accurate, especially when it came to the big picture. Small picture maps could be more accurate. Uh, but yes, kingdoms would have their own maps from their perspective, whatever is right, that sort of thing. And you would have checkposts. Of course, you would have checkposts. Land records, of course, you had land records. Our land records are destroyed, lost. Whatever survives is copper plates. I don't think those copper plates, land grants, etc., are legally valid anymore today. Let's say you have a copper plate in your possession that tells you that a king 800 years ago granted so and so amount of land to your family. Is that legally enforceable today? I don't think the Indian government, the Indian state recognizes land grants given by old kings, ancient kings, because India is a colonial nation, right? Still a colonial nation. Anyhow, so you had borders, you had checkposts. Of course, you had that very much. Cartography, yes, you had to a certain extent. Yeah. V Karma says, can you explain the Turkey F-35 saga? Turkey was supposed to get F-35 fighter planes. Then Turkey decided that it will purchase the S-400 anti-aircraft, anti-missile system from Russia. The S-400 is a Russian system, one of the most capable air defense systems in the world. So when Turkey decided to buy the S-400, the Americans immediately said, you cannot have F-35s. No, 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 no. And that's the saga, in short. Yeah. Okay, Kakashi says, you don't comment on politics, yet to support Modi and Yogi and not previous administrations. It is what it is. I don't comment on politics, but I have my own views, which I choose not to air here. But yes, to a certain extent, I'll tell you what my preferences are. And my preferences are based on facts, which I've explained, based on logic and rationale. It's not based on emotions, right? Which leader has been good for the national interest? That's what I look at. That's the only, set of criteria I have. Okay, so did you like Vajpayee? It's not about liking someone or disliking someone. You can dislike, you can dislike a person individually and still support his or her leadership. Do you understand that? Okay. You can dislike a person individually, but you must still support them as the leader of the country. Let me give you an example, a non-Indian example. The person who is responsible for the continuing existence of Turkey today, that person was Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. Okay, he is the creator of modern Turkey. He fought for Turkey, and Turkey would have been broken into pieces had he not fought the Turkish War of Independence, early 1920s. He is the father of the nation, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. He was a terrible human being, but a great leader. He was not a good human being. He was a drunk. He was an alcoholic. He was a womanizer. Terrible in personal life. Very transactional person. He used people, but he served his nation. He put his life on the line for the nation on so many occasions. So you can dislike a person individually, but that person may still be a great leader. Right? So it's not about liking or disliking someone. It's not about the emotion. It's about, did the person serve the nation well enough? Okay. I will leave it at that. Yes. All right. What evidence do you have Yogi will act in the national interest? If you look at the patterns, and you can extrapolate the patterns in the future. What has been a leader's patterns of past behavior, or the past, let's say, decade or so? What have they done? What have their actions been like? And if you look at the pattern of their actions, if you project that forward into the future and put that leader in a different role, how will they perform based on past actions? That's the thing. You have no evidence of what happened what's going to happen in the future. You have to use past behavior, the past patterns of actions, to hypothesize that if that same pattern continues and the leader is in a different role, what would they do? Would it be good for the country? That's how we do it. Okay. Kakashi says, just be open and honest. No, I am always dishonest. I'm always dishonest. I'm always non-open and dishonest. That's why people watch me, right? Just be open and honest. If you think BJP is the only good party and all others are anti-national, when have I ever said all others are anti-national? When have I said all others are anti-national? I think you are mischaracterizing. You're trying to convert everything into a binary. Nothing I say is binary. Sadly, people don't see nuance. Have I ever said there's only one good party in India and all others are international? Where have I said that? Please find it. I've never said that. And I'm very grateful to you that you think I'm not dumb. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I am really very, very flattered and very pleased. Yeah, that you think I'm not dumb. Look, once again, for the record, I have not said that there's only one good party in India. I have not said that apart from that one party, all of the parties are anti-national. I've never said that. So let's not mischaracterize my position. Right? All right. Dheeraj Kamath says, how is bringing Pakistan to beg for a ceasefire and stopping short of making offensive maneuvers any different from Prithviraj Chauhan letting Ghori escape? 1,000 years and still we want to be defensive. So, yeah, Pakistan begged for a ceasefire. Despite whatever Trump says today and so on, we know what really happened. Yes. And then we stopped. We just stopped. What did India gain from Operation Sindoor? What did India gain? Was it some muh tod jawab? Was it a master stroke? Did we teach them a lesson? We cratered their airfields. We created big craters in their airfields. We blew up some parts of Noor Khan Air Base. We destroyed some of their aircraft on the ground, some in the air. We destroyed many of the radars. That was in May last year. This is August. That was in May 25. Now we're in August 26, slightly more than a year. Pakistan has rebuilt everything. They may have replaced the radars by now. Their runways are operational once again. Whatever damage we did to Noor Khan Air Base and other air bases, Bolari, Sholari, whatever, they fixed it. What did we achieve? Did we take some territory? Did we do a regime change? Did we end the rule of the Pakistan military? We killed a few terrorists, maybe 100, 200 terrorists. Okay. Terrorists are a dime a dozen in Pakistan. That's a fungible thing. They'll conjure up 5,000 more terrorists in a year's time. 5,000, what, 50,000? Who knows how many they can, train in a year's time. What did India achieve? Nothing really. I'm just being honest. What did India achieve strategically? So, I was hopeful that something more substantial will eventuate, but in 3 days we just stopped. Now the question is, why did India stop? Because the United States threatened us with certain consequences. What were the threats? I don't know. I am 100% sure of this, that the US threatened India with certain consequences if India did not stop immediately. The Americans rescued Pakistan. And maybe the threats were substantial enough for India to stop. So you see, when Prithviraj Chauhan let Ghori escape, nobody was threatening him with anything. There was no bigger power who was threatening Prithviraj Chauhan that if you don't let him escape, we're going to do something. No. In the case of Operation Sindoor, you had a bigger power, the most powerful nation in the world, threatening India. So it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. But yes, it was of course disappointing. Prataradana says, where did Hindus get this idea that we don't convert others and they believe it's a good thing? It's actually a sign of weakness and lack of confidence. No, Hinduism doesn't convert. There's no conversion to Hinduism. You can be a Hindu tomorrow morning. Right now, you can be a Hindu. If you simply say, okay, I'm going to live according to the values of Hinduism. You don't have to even worship any Hindu gods or goddesses. You can choose to be an atheist and still be a Hindu. It's just by following the values, the morals, the values, the ethics that are part of Indian culture. That is Hinduism. So there's no conversion ceremony or whatever. And if you start converting people, baptizing them or whatever, then you are you go down the Abrahamic road. Then in what way are you different from Abrahamic religions? It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of lack of confidence. It's a sign of Hinduism being completely different from the Abrahamic religions. That's what it actually indicates. Right? Why do you need to convert others? Why? The reason the Abrahamic religions convert, not all three, two of them convert, is because the religions are essentially political religions. They are religions of conquest. And conversion is one of the forms of conquest. And once you convert, there are very strict, very brutal consequences if you convert back out of an Abrahamic religion. In Hinduism, there's no such thing. You convert, you live a while as a Hindu. If you don't like it, you go and do whatever you want. You go back to whatever religion you belong to, whatever. No one cares in Hinduism. It's a live and let live kind of culture. And that's what makes Hinduism different. Maybe it's also a weakness of Hinduism that we don't convert. It's not a lack of confidence. It's actually tremendous confidence that we don't need to convert anyone. We don't care if somebody lives our lifestyle or not. So maybe it's a sign of weakness from a real world, realistic perspective, but it's not a sign of lack of confidence. It's a sign of being a supremely confident culture. Okay, reality is all inclusive says, will internet revolution reshape all institutions? The internet revolution was 25 years ago, right? Now we are in the AI age. The internet revolution went through its thing. India got its first internet service provider in 1995. By 97, 98, you had cyber cafes in India. By the late 1990s, you had the dot-com bubble crash. And then in the early 2000s onwards, you had the actual commercialization of the internet. That's old history. That revolution is long, long, long gone. Today you have the AI revolution. That's going to reshape all institutions, possibly. Yes. Wumao says, Wumao bot says, Yuan Empire is Chinese empire, Chinese law codes, Chinese admin system, Confucian schools and rituals. Khans claim themselves. Tibet is historical part of China. No, sir. It's not. The Yuan Empire was a conquest empire. The Chinese themselves have this concept of something called a conquest empire. The Yuan Empire was entirely Mongol in ethnicity, in culture, in language. Okay, they wanted to rule China. That's why you see the benevolence of the Mongols. They could have smashed your bureaucracy, flattened it to the ground, eradicated it completely, and imposed a complete Mongol system on China. But they chose to be benevolent. They chose to magnanimously allow the Chinese system to continue. Don't take that as a sign of weakness. Take that as a sign of Mongol magnanimity. They were not like the Abrahamics. We're going to destroy you. We're going to destroy your language. We're going to destroy your religion. We're going to destroy your way of life. We're going to impose our way of life, our religion, our everything on you. They chose not to do that. That doesn't mean the Yuan Empire is the Chinese empire. Please don't make that incredible, irresponsible mistake. Please don't do that. The Khans never said this is a Chinese empire. Shri Kublai Khan was not Chinese. He did not claim he was Chinese. He claimed that he was the emperor of China, which is different from saying that I am Chinese. Okay? Tibet has never ever been part of China. And Tibet will once again be free. We shall do it. We shall make it happen. All right. Kiran More says USA invite India in their Artemis program, Artemis Accords. Building space station on the moon, is it good for India or some kind of crap? The US. India signed the Artemis Accords for what reason? I have no idea. But okay, India signed it. India doesn't seem to be interested in space anymore. India is completely neglecting ISRO. What is the last time ISRO, developed a new rocket, a more powerful rocket? Yeah, there's some work happening on the LVM-3 or whatever, the next level, rocket. I don't know when that will happen. India's space program is essentially on ice. It's progressing very, very slowly. The government of India does not seem to believe that space is important for India. Yeah. So I don't know. They've signed the Artemis Accords, and if the Americans have invited India to do something, it means nothing. It means nothing. Is it good for India? What's good for India is India taking space seriously and having its own space program, independent of any other nations. Sure, have cooperation and collaboration in various aspects of the space program, but have your own independent space capabilities. Don't depend on somebody else to send satellites into space or to send astronauts into space. And sending an astronaut into space on somebody else's rocket is not some great achievement. Oh, we have an Indian in space again. Who cares? It's a passenger. So we need to have our own space program. And all of this is not good for India. It's of no use for India. Kakashi says, why was average GDP growth under UPA higher than it's now? And despite it, why you think this urban is better? Russia proposed rail link to India. Is it good? You see, okay, it's a good question you're asking. Why was average GDP growth good under UPA higher than it's now? Because the situation was different. The global conditions were different. And do you know there are lagging indicators? Do you know what those are? It means there is a certain amount of time lag between cause and effect. Okay. For example, in sports, you change your strategy in the middle of a football game. You won't have immediate results. It's going to take some time for the results to be visible, if they are visible at all. When you take actions economically for a gigantic country, it takes several years for the good effects of those actions to become visible and measurable and quantifiable. The reforms were done by the Vajpayee government, but the results became visible during the UPA. And whatever the UPA did, the consequences of that became visible and measurable and quantifiable after 2014. Of course, now it's too long. It's been 12 years after 2014. So you can't, if the economy is not hypothetically doing well today or well enough, you can't blame the UPA for that anymore. But today the world is fragmenting. The US is implementing a policy of containing India. They're imposing massive tariffs on India. The whole financial system is splitting up. There's this energy stress that India is facing. So today it's different. It's no longer the same conditions. Do you understand? All right. Russia proposed a rail link to India. Is it good? It's good if it happens. I'll be pleased. I will not be against that. We will have to create some corridor for that to pass through. Should we ask Russia to help us with that? No, we should do it ourselves. So what we would need is need a restoration to Wakhan. The Wakhan, it doesn't work, right? Wakhan is too mountainous. What am I talking about? Let's open the map. So first we will ask ourselves, where can this rail route potentially come through? What part of the map? So if Russia wants a railway line, let's say from Moscow to Delhi, where is Delhi? Here it is. So then it has to pass through other countries, right? Because Russia and India are not neighbors. So it has to pass through definitely Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, then Afghanistan. 1, 2, 3. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Afghanistan. If you want to complicate, you can have it through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan also, and then Afghanistan. But let's keep it 3 countries. So Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan. But then you have an issue, right? There's a temporary nation between India and in Afghanistan, Pakistan. And if you see, according to the Indian official map, we have a border with Wakhan, the Wakhan corridor, Wakhan National Park. But if you look at the actual geography there, it's tremendously mountainous. You can't have railway lines here. So it has to come through essentially somewhere here, which means that it has to pass through territory that is currently temporarily part of Pakistan. It has to pass through Punjab. Now, Pakistan won't allow this to happen, which means that we will have to change the geography or change the map, which means that so, either it can pass through Balochistan and Sindh, or it can pass through, I would say, Pakistani occupied Punjab. If one of the stops is Kabul, then it should pass through Punjab. If you want to go bring it through Kandahar, then we can bring it through Balochistan and Sindh. So it's a nice proposal. I appreciate Mr. Putin making the proposal if he is the originator. But the question is, how do we make it happen? Proposal is a proposal. It's just a proposal, right? It's just words. You have to make it happen. I would say it would be great if we make it happen. But then we'll have to rearrange the map to a certain extent. Does India have the wherewithal to do that right now? Not sure we do right now. That's the problem. So it's a good proposal. It's from an engineering perspective, it's not a big deal. Can be done in a few years, 2-3 years. We can make it happen in a couple of years, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years at most. But the issue is the politics, the geopolitics. Okay. General Subotai, thank you very much, sir, for becoming a member once again. I really appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Okay, Kiran Morris says, any updates on FCRA bill? I have no idea. Look, I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I analyze things. I don't report the news. I don't give you updates. I have no idea what the update is. I don't think the bill has been passed, as far as I know. No other updates. Please don't confuse me for a reporter or a journalist. I am not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I don't do updates. I do analysis. So that's totally different, all right? So I don't know what's happening. Have they passed it? Are they not passing it? What's the deal? No idea. Suresh Chavda. Well, hello. Jai Shri Ramji. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you. A relative of mine. Good to see you, sir. Ritik Pawar says, will humanity reach Alpha Centauri in the next 100 years? Extremely unlikely. 99.99% probability it will not happen. Extremely unlikely. Almost 0% probability. Somalia Paul says, reports say, 1. North Korean forces are gaining pay and combat experience while aiding Russia. Where is Belarus isn't helping? Secondly, growing Russia ties your views. What is Psy? Well, let me take the first one. North Korean forces are gaining pay and they're also gaining combat experience while aiding Russia. Yes, one hears that's what's happening. They are gaining experience fighting in Ukraine on Russia's side. Yes, even I've heard of this. I don't know if it's confirmed. I mean, who confirms that? Anyway, yeah, it's most likely that this is happening. Why is Belarus not helping? Belarus is there. It can be activated if required, when required. You don't start using all your reserve forces at the same time when it's not needed, right? You keep it in reserve. So Belarus is very much on Russia's side, and it will help if or when required. What is SY? Syria. What is SY? I'm not sure what SY is. Growing SY Russia ties. Syria is gone. Syria has been regime changed by the Americans. What other nation is SY? No, I don't know. Okay. Abhirup Sarkar says, isn't Hasina December Bangladesh returned suicidal? Has she decided to return? I don't know. Let me see. Okay, let's find out. Is Sheikh Hasina planning to return to Bangladesh? stated her intention to return by December. Okay. Declared in audio addresses from Delhi that she plans to return around December. Legal danger, lethal danger. Awami League remains banned. Yeah, it looks like if she returns, then she could face the death penalty. But look, she hasn't returned, right? She's made some statements. Maybe things may change by December. Maybe something is in the offing. So right now it's just words. So we'll see if that happens. If she returns right now, I think it could be very dangerous for her. Yes. Kakashi says India should build a rail link with Russia, Chabahar, and join the Belt and Road Initiative. But we are focused on IMEC, which is never going to happen. Do you see Japan minister complain about us? Okay. Should India build a railway link with Russia and Iran? Yeah, absolutely. But for that, we have to solve the problem of the temporary nation in between. So look, like I showed just now, it's if you want to build a railway line or railway lines between these countries, between India and Iran, we have to go through Sindh and Balochistan, which is a problem because Pakistan won't let us do it. And if you want a railway link with, let's say, Moscow, then you have to go through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, which are all fine. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Afghanistan, right? And these are friendly nations. The only issue is Pakistan once again. So on paper, it's great that we should build these railway links, but we have to then solve the problem, right? The Pakistan problem. Should India join the BRI? No, India should not join the BRI. The BRI is a Chinese project. If you join the BRI, you are accepting that essentially you are accepting Chinese leadership. India should not join the BRI. Unless China is no longer hostile with India, and yeah, the sun will sooner rise from the west than China becoming friends with India. So yeah, India should not join the BRI. Now India focused on the IMEC, which was stupid. Yeah, you're right. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. The IMEC. So yeah, India's foreign policy has been perplexing. India has outsourced its foreign policy to friendships and God knows what things. Having friendships is not foreign policy. Having a navy is foreign policy. Because using a navy, you can enforce things. Friendships are, you can't enforce friendships, can you? India seems to have gambled on putting all its eggs in the American basket. Right? Not the right option, clearly, in hindsight at least. Yep. Right. So, did I see Japan minister complain about India? I am not aware of this. Nah. Kiran More says somebody insulted Giorgia Meloni. Look, I will not comment about this. I don't comment about domestic politics. I know it's about something to do with a foreign leader, but there's also a domestic angle here. Right. Okay. Pratardana says, I eat eggs but not meat. That's my compromise. All right, sir. Eggs are a very high quality source of protein. And eggs are not the cholesterol bombs that, they've been portrayed as. Once again, I'm not giving any medical or dietary advice. I'm just saying. Yeah. So, all right. Good that's working for you. Harshit Jain says, can we consider the Iran-US war to be a never-ending war? Do you think it will impact the UAE's economy in the long run? Already, national carriers of many European nations have suspended flights to DXB, Dubai. Is this a never-ending war? It all depends on the US. Right now, it started on February 28. So March, April, May, June, July, August. It's been 5.5 months. That's not never-ending, right? The Ukraine war seems to be like a frozen conflict. Right? A stalemate. It's hot. There is action happening, but the lines on the map aren't really moving now. So Ukraine seems to be going into that phase. It's already the Ukraine conflict, the Ukraine war is already longer than the First World War. Right. So the Ukraine war is going in that direction. Never-ending conflict, never-ending war. The US-Iran war, it's too early to call it a never-ending war. the US is in no position to defeat Iran, and it is blockading Hormuz. So it's once again a stalemate kind of situation. Um, and Iran is not wantonly attacking its neighboring countries, UAE or whoever. It's not doing that. It has done that because there were US assets on the ground there, US radars, US military installations. Those have been targeted and destroyed by Iran to a large extent, but they're not targeting the population or the local infrastructure. But yes, there's always the danger from UAE's perspective. Um, if it becomes, let's say, a never-ending war, it will of course impact the UAE's economy in the long run. That'll be a problem, very big problem, especially for an emirate like Dubai, not necessarily for Abu Dhabi. If they can bypass Hormuz somehow, then they'll be fine. Yeah, so obviously it's terrible for the UAE. They are in a situation that they have not created. They have not attacked Iran, but they have taken the US security guarantees and so on, which is why they had American assets on their territory, which is why Iran took action. So it's a situation they haven't created. They didn't start the war. They did not want the war. Eventually, the Gulf nations are going to have to make their own peace individually with Iran. Okay. Purvesh Kohli says, a huge admirer of yours. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Currently studying my master's in the UK, MSc management program. Literally, I've learned a lot from you, geopolitics, physics, etc. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed, Purvesh Ji. According to you, what's the best strategies I can learn for my career in the near future? Career strategies. What can you learn? See, I'll tell you what. Success in geopolitics and success in career, success in business, they follow very similar principles and rules. If you want to strategize the right way for your career, I would highly recommend learn a bit of game theory. That way you can see everything as a game essentially. And a game with different rules depending on whether it is a multiplayer game, whether it's a zero sum game. Most games aren't zero sum games. You have competition, and cooperation, and so on. So what's your optimal strategy? Where does the Nash equilibrium come in? All that you can, the best thing you can do is to study a basic game theory textbook. Apart from that, what strategies? Learn from geopolitics. There's no friends, there's no enemies. You have to look out for yourself. You have to prioritize your interests above those of others. I'm not saying don't prioritize your family and so on. I'm saying keep your core people as part of your core interests. So you can learn a lot from geopolitics and apply that into your personal career, into your business and so on. That's what I can say. All right, sir. All the best. All the best. Piyush Sinha says there's been peace time in the Middle East region for quite a while. Friday stock markets also closed. Still no attack by either US or Israel. What are the planning for? Also peacetime on your channel since 7 days. Why so gaps? Now I'm doing the live stream once in a week, but it's not peaceful every day. I'm releasing a short at least 5 times a week. I'm releasing shorts almost daily now, right? So it's not like my channel is inactive. It's not, right? I'm doing live streams once a week now. That's I was doing live streams twice a week earlier. In the past, I've done 5 times a week also. So that keeps changing. But I'm releasing shorts at least 5 times a week, which is pretty much, right? It's not a small amount of shorts. So okay, now peacetime in the Middle East for quite a while. Friday stock markets also closed. Still no attack by either the US or Israel. What are they planning? I don't know what they're planning. I don't know what their decision makers are planning. The US can't do much right now because they're short of ammunition. They're short of interceptors. It's going to take them several years to rebuild a decent stock of interceptors. They've also significantly depleted their stock of cruise missiles, Tomahawk missiles. Their radars in the region have been destroyed. There's nothing the Americans can do right now to defeat Iran. They can impose military costs on Iran. They can impose more pain on the people of Iran, but that's only going to make the population support the Iranian government more. So the Americans have run out of options right now, right? Iran has been way more resilient than they imagined. It's almost unbreakable. It's a victory for Iran. Israel, once again, they initiated the war. Israel. They took a pounding from Iran. And that pounding was censored on social media. The videos were not allowed to come out on social media. And yeah, there could be political consequences for Israel based on this. So right now, what are they planning? I don't know what they're planning. What's the worst they can do? More attacks? It will make no difference. They've lost the war. That's the situation. Okay. AK Edit says, when will hardware prices of mobile go down? I have no idea. Right now, things are high, right? If you want to buy, let's say, hard drives are super expensive now because of the global demand for hard drives, right? Because of AI. So everything is expensive now. I don't know about mobile prices. I've not bought a mobile phone for a while now. I don't buy mobile phones every year. If I have one, I use it for like, I don't know, 5 years. Yeah. At least. Minimum 3 years. Minimum. If you buy a more expensive one, it lasts longer. The point is, I don't know what the mobile prices are like right now. If they're high, I have no idea when they'll go down. Right now, I think everything is expensive because of the global massive demand for hardware of all types because of AI. Stalingrad 666 says, big fan of yours. Thank you so much, Stalingrad. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Okay, Kakashi says, okay, 1 out of 2. Indians think Israel is against Islamic terror. They're just against Hamas and even supported Hamas at one point. They are not against ISIS or Al Qaeda or Pakistan and support current Syrian administration. Yes, they support the current Syrian administration. That's correct. You can't deny that. They also support Azerbaijan against Armenia. Azerbaijan is a Muslim country, isn't it? Netanyahu said Pakistan is not his enemy in 2018. Israel's recent actions may breed more terror, resentment, extremism in the future. So is Israel against Islamic terror? I would say no, it's not. It's against Hamas and anybody who targets Israel. And typically the ones who target Israel have happened to be Islamic countries who exist in the neighborhood. That's why Indians believe that Israel is against Islamic terror or whatever it is, right? If such a thing exists, if it does. So they are, of course, against Hamas. I don't know if they supported Hamas at some point in time in the past. I'm not aware of that, but okay. They are not against ISIS or Al Qaeda or Pakistan. I would tend to agree with you. They support the current Syrian administration, which is run by a former terrorist. Yes, a former head chopper, and so on. So overall, yes. All right. Rohan Bidi says, can consciousness be defined as being aware of your own experience and having agency over decision making? Free will, at least to some extent. That would be a very personal definition of consciousness. But in science, we define things broadly. We define things in such a way that that definition is applicable anywhere in the universe. So if I say the laws of physics are so and so, I mean that they are so and so here on the Andromeda galaxy and at the farthest edges of the universe. The laws of physics are the same everywhere. So in science and physics, you have generalized universal definitions of the laws and everything else. So now consciousness, we don't have a definition. Because I am here, my experience is here, right? But what about Andromeda? What about a galaxy 10 billion light years away? What about that? Right. So we are not able to define consciousness. A very simple way of asking the question about consciousness is, let's say I have a black box, a black sphere, okay? Let's say I have a black box somewhere. How do I define whether whatever is hidden inside is conscious or not? What are the defining characteristics of consciousness? So we are unable to define that. That's the problem. So we don't have a definition of consciousness. Being aware of your own experience and having agency over decision making is from a human perspective. But how do I know whether this thing is conscious or not? What about your pet dog or pet cat or pet pigeon or parrot, whatever? What about a lion? What about a crocodile? What about their consciousness? Are they aware of their own experience? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Uh, is a bee is a bee aware of its own experience? We don't know about that, right? So that's why we are unable to define consciousness. Varinder Marwa says, can Chinese empire fall internally like the USSR without war? Look, eventually all empires fall because of internal issues. Some fall because of external interventions. But if you look at China's history, many of their empires have eventually disintegrated, fallen, like you say, because of internal problems. They lost control over their country. They became too weak internally. So eventually all empires fall. And many of them fall internally. So can it fall internally? Yes, it can. The question is, when could such a thing happen? Could it happen in the next 2 years, next 5 years, next 50 years, next 200 years? We don't know. But it can. Yes, it can. Roshan Kumar says, why is Haiti poor despite great origins? I'm not sure. I've not looked into it. Yeah, it is desperately poor. Not sure what the deal is. I haven't looked into this. Can't say right now. Sorry. Kakashi says, 1 out of 2. We were very much excited about G20 and Quad, but BRICS Summit is a chance for us to show we are serious about ties with the other side too. And we want to be sovereign, civilizational power with a sphere of influence. Past 12 years have been a relentless focus and courting of the collective West. Israel, Japan as allies, not global South. I agree with you. I agree with you very strongly. Very strongly. The past 12 years, India has been relentlessly courting the West, the collective West, and Israel. Japan, yeah, okay, Japan. Japan is not a sovereign nation, by the way. There's no courting of a non-sovereign nation. So yes, you are right. India's foreign policy has been like, we will court the West. The West will take care of us. We will integrate our economy with the West. All the answers are in the West. That's been India's foreign policy the past 12 years. And that is a failure. That's failed. The West, which is led by the US, is now in containment mode. The US is containing India. The US is treating India the way it treats adversaries. Not all out, but you're beginning to see the calibrated approach that they have towards containing India. So it looks like our foreign policy was based on assumptions that the West will be beneficial for India. Those assumptions have fallen flat on their face. So yeah, India was excited about the G20 and so on. Yeah, okay. I was there at the G20 summit. And the Quad is dead. The Quad is dead. Okay. BRICS summit is a chance for us to show we are serious about other ties. Yeah. And we want to be a sovereign civilizational power with a sphere of influence. To be a civilizational power, we have to reform ourselves internally. That's an internal domestic matter. Becoming a civilizational power again. We are currently not a civilization. Not real. If I were to be honest, we are not a civilization today anymore. But yes, we should focus on BRICS. We should be serious about ties with other nations too, especially nations that are non-Western. China obviously cannot be trusted. Okay. Can it be trusted? You can trust China to follow its own interests. That we can trust. But China doesn't see India as an equal, and why should they? India is not an equal to China today. Right? So we have issues between India and China, but India and Russia, there's a lot of great history there and a lot of potential. So overall, I agree with you. Yes, sir. Piyush Sinha says, if US is publicly prioritizing the field marshal of Pakistan more than ever than any US government has done, then why are speculations still growing of a coup in Pakistan in the geopolitical circles? Well, this is the first time I'm hearing of this speculation. Maybe I'm not part of these geopolitical circles. Are you talking about the YouTube geopolitical analysts in India, experts? कल कू हो जाएगा पाकिस्तान में, मुंह तोड़ जवाब, असीम मुनीर घबरा गए, all that stuff. So, yeah, I am not part of such geopolitical circles if they exist. I am not speculating about any coup in Pakistan. I'm not. Why are the others speculating whatever they're doing? I have no idea. Ask them. Don't ask me about why others are speculating whatever they're speculating. I don't see a coup coming in Pakistan. If it comes, I'm not making any predictions. Right? So I have no idea what other people are speculating and why they're speculating that. I have absolutely no idea. Fast Snail says, heard in SFO people can hire humanoids for cleaning services. They were meant for factories, but looks like sooner or later robots are entering homes. Oh yeah, robots are entering the home sooner or later. They're gonna enter your home for a price. They're gonna cost money, whatever, $5,000-$10,000 per unit. Optimus Prime or whatever. Yeah, Optimus. And those robots, their software will be updated on a regular basis by the parent company. So it's gonna be like a a phone or a laptop. The device is physically yours, but the software, the operating system is still theirs, that sort of thing. So I don't know if you can already hire robots for cleaning services, but it's gonna happen very soon, right? You're gonna have robots in factories. You're gonna have dark factories, no lights, operating 24/7, and robots working constantly, continuously, without a break. You're gonna have that. You're gonna have robots in homes too. Yeah, it's coming. Linkin Park says, is Islamic NATO America's way to legitimize Pakistani nuclear weapons given Operation Sindoor has ended their nuclear threat? Please shed some light. I may be wrong in my thoughts. The Islamic NATO is a long-term program. It's nothing to do with nuclear weapons as such. The Islamic NATO is I expect more nations to join this Islamic NATO. I expect more nations to join this alliance. So it started with the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia pact, right? Mutual defense agreement. Then Turkey joined. So you have three now. Very strange bedfellows. Turkey and Saudi Arabia are rivals, but they're together with Pakistan. I expect more nations to join this. And initially, this alliance will be made of incompatible militaries and nations, but they will over time make themselves compatible with each other. So it's going to be something that grows over the next decade, 2 decades. The danger for India is not a short-term danger. The danger is a long-term danger. Okay? And look, the fact is that these alliances come together only when there's an external threat. Otherwise, no group of nations forms a military alliance. Military alliances only form when there is an external threat somewhere, a perceived external danger. So what's the danger to Pakistan? To Pakistan, we understand they see India as the enemy. But is India an enemy of Saudi Arabia or Turkey? It's not. But they're joining with Pakistan. And neither of these nations is strong enough to be the leader of the Islamic world. So who's bringing them together? Obviously, a more powerful external force or entity, most likely the US. The US is assembling a coalition of Islamic nations. The US is the leader of the Islamic world, actually. So it's nothing to do with Pakistan. Pakistan is just a disposable asset for the US. Okay? They're not trying to legitimize anything. They're trying to bring the Islamic nations together to form an actual military bloc, which the Americans will control. Maybe they will be allowed to have nukes, which will be American nukes controlled by Americans. Because Pakistani nukes are most likely American nukes. I can't prove that, but makes sense. So it's not about Pakistan. It's about creating a grouping of nations that will counter any threat to the US in the region, and also counter threats to themselves. So you could say there are three potential targets. One is Israel, one is Iran, one is India. Now, why would these nations want to target Israel, which is the number one ally of the US, which is the master of the Islamic nations. Doesn't make sense. Iran can't be defeated. You don't want to antagonize Iran further because Iran can flatten your cities. And then there's India. So I would say it's mostly targeting India right now. Eventually, it will also target China, Russia, etc. But right now, the immediate target is India. Okay, Minimalist Maverick says, if we try capture Tibet, will it end up like Kargil? We're not doing anything with Tibet right now. I'm not recommending any such thing. India should not open the Tibet issue for the next 10 years at least. King Ritvik says, why in CBSE Class 9 history chapter is French Revolution, not French Civil War? Can you explain in brief what the French Revolution was about? The French Revolution was about liberté, égalité, fraternité. Liberty, freedom of the people, freedom from the evil, oppressive monarchy, equality of people, no more classes, no more aristocracy, monarchy, nobility, peasantry. No, everybody should be equal. And fraternité means fraternity. Everyone should be brotherly. Yeah. And it was about down with the monarchy, down with the evil, oppressive kings who have ruled France. Kill them all. And kill all the nobles, kill all the aristocrats. So it was the French Civil War, of course, but we call it the French Revolution. Why? I have no idea. Because they've decided to make it sound more grandiose than what it actually was. Right? So that's what, in brief, what the French Revolution was about. It was ruled by the mob. And eventually what happened is that France went back to monarchy to keep the ideals of the French Revolution alive. Yeah, they crowned an emperor, Shri Napoleon Bonaparte. Right. Varinder Marwa says, haplogroup Q found in 10-2% Jats. Saka marker Takshashila 80 BC. Okay, I don't know what this haplogroup Q is. The Sakas were mostly R1A. Let me find out. What's the most common patrilineal haplogroup that's found among Scythian remains? There we have it. The Sakas, the Scythians. It's R1A, specifically Z93, which is considered to be the subcontinental version, the subcontinental subclade. So the average Scythian man was R1A Z93, which is what the most common haplogroup in India today. Okay. Now, what is haplogroup Q? Haplogroup Q. Haplo. Q. Okay, what is this? Okay, let's say Y chromosomes, Y DNA haplogroup Q, just to be more specific. Indigenous peoples of Americas. Okay, so this is not Saka. This is not Scythian. First of all, when you say Saka, you mean the Shakas, right? The Scythians. That's what you mean. Haplogroup Q is the primary paternal lineage associated with the indigenous peoples of the Americas and Siberian and Central Asian populations, some of them. So if it is found in 10 to 15% Jats, it's an interesting thing to have, but it's definitely not of Scythian origin. It's not. The Scythians themselves had the Indian, haplogroup R1A-Z93, which is very commonly found among Indian males today. But the origin of all the haplogroups, non-African haplogroups, is Indian. F, right? Haplogroup F, which originated some 65,000-70,000 years ago in India. Minimalist Maverick says, secret deal with the US, no FCRA, 0% tariffs for 5 years. I would not want to speculate about this. Who knows? Nothing is impossible, but I don't want to speculate. Stalingrad says, I am in my final years of MBBS in India as AI is taking over everything currently. Will AI also take over medical science? Look, AI is going to play a very major role very soon in medical science. if you upload sonography reports, CT scan reports, etc., to and simply ask, Chat GPT or Gemini or Claude to, give a analyze the thing and diagnose whatever illness is there, it will probably do a better job than most physicians already. So AI is going to be very, very important in as a diagnostic tool. That's already one of the major uses of AI. Then you have drug discovery and so on, which is not exactly medicine. I mean, medical, uh, what doctors do. But AI is going to be everywhere. AI is eventually going to help with surgery, robotic surgery. You already have robotic surgery in some uh, some operations, right? So AI is going to become more and more embedded in the domain of medical science. It's not going to take over medical science overall, but it's going to be more and more relevant for sure. Okay, the Strummer says Professor Jiang said Trump can become the third time president if he runs for vice president and if the elected new president resigns. Thoughts? Yeah, it's possible, of course. So Trump, see, the US has term limits, which means once a person has been president for 2 terms, 2 4-year terms, he or she can no longer, he can no longer run for president again. But there's no law that says that person cannot run as vice president. So let's say Trump runs as vice president in the next campaign, and whoever his running mate is as for presidency, that person wins. So that person becomes the president and Trump becomes the vice president. Then if that person who is president resigns, Trump will once again become president. So yeah, that is a loophole for sure. Indeed. Akshay Sharma says, if a missile can travel faster than light, can it blow up a target before even being launched? If yes, then how? A missile can't travel faster than light. That's the problem. If I were to assume that a missile can travel faster than light, I would have to invent new laws of physics for that to happen. Right? I mean, theoretically, you can have objects or particles that can travel faster than light. But then they can't travel slower than light. Okay? Then they can't travel slower than light. And their properties are totally different. I have to work those out. Yeah, I'd rather not to go into that in details because I'll have to rederive that from a priori, from scratch. Such particles are called tachyons, right? What's the physics of tachyons? I don't remember now. It's been a while. So, you see, if a particle can travel faster than light, that's not according to the laws of physics, that can happen. But then such a particle can never travel slower than light, right? So if you have a regular missile and you try to make it travel faster than light, it simply won't work. It can never travel faster than light. The closer it gets to light speed, the greater its mass becomes. And to reach light speed, it would need to have infinite mass. Doesn't work. Right? So, yeah, a missile can't travel faster than light. And if I assume that it does, then I have to invent new laws of physics, which I'll have to work out on pen and paper for over a few hours. So I can't answer you. Okay. And yeah, it doesn't work. It won't work. Okay. Chirag Avasti says, reports say India see Russia and USA best allies. Wake up. Reports say Indians see Russia and USA as best allies. Wake up. Okay. Wake up. All right. Piyush Sinha says, the British and the Soviets already conquered Iran during World War II. It's not that much hard then. Why now? Because Iran is not that Iran. During in the 1940s, did Iran of that time have 10,000, 20, 30,000 ballistic missiles? Did they have several lakh drones? Did they have a decentralized government, mosaic warfare? They had none of those things. That's your simple answer. This is a totally different Iran today. That's why. Fast Snail says, did India succumb to US pressure versus with respect to FCRA? I don't know. What has happened with the FCRA Act? The Americans didn't want India to pass this. What's the status of the FCRA bill in India's parliament? Has it passed? It has not yet passed. It was introduced in the Lok Sabha on March 25. That's been a while. During the August 26th session, it was officially referred to a joint parliamentary committee amid intense pushback and protest from opposition parties. Okay. So why are some people very upset with this FCRA bill? Why are the Americans so upset? What business do they have telling India what to do? But it is what it is, right? So has India succumbed to American pressure? We will see. Too early to say. We'll see. Okay. Jay Tiwari says DRDO hit 350 kilogram goal. Is DRDO finally performing? 350 kilograms in what? Let me see. DRDO 350 kilograms. What is this? India's first indigenous expendable turbojet engine in the 350 kilogram thrust class. Are tell me that right? You're talking about a jet engine here. How will I know? Okay, first indigenous expendable turbojet engine, 350 kilogram thrust class. GTRE, okay. GTRE is in Bangalore. Built for single-use military systems rather than manned fighter jets. Essentially, it's gonna be used to power missiles, right? Long-range cruise missiles, jet-powered loitering munitions, high-speed target drones, and UAVs, and so on. Good job, DRDO. Good job. I think DRDO's performance is getting better. Good job. Outstanding. Very, very pleased to see this. Okay. Chill Panda says, do you think even if a country is very developed, has a very good quality of life, infrastructure, education, people will still find things to complain about? Yes. Yes. Of course. If life becomes too easy, people, it's hard for people to see. People need some kind of struggle in life. That's what gives meaning to life. You need some kind of challenge. You need some obstacle that you have to overcome. You need some struggle. If you don't have that, your life becomes meaningless. And then people start inventing problems. So yes, you're right. That's what happens. Lippy the Lion says, do you like Nolan films? Watched Odyssey, typical Nolan, but some woke stuff. Oh yeah, some woke stuff. Yeah. Whirlpool scene underwhelming. I still haven't watched the Odyssey. Is it still even available to watch? Is the window still open? I'll have to see. I don't know. Okay, Trojan horse and war scenes were great. Hope he won't turn more woke for the legacy he has had. Do I like Nolan films? Was Interstellar a Nolan film? Let me see. Was Interstellar directed by Chris Nolan? It was. Interstellar is one of the greatest science fiction films of all time. Fantastic. Yeah. Christopher Nolan. What are his other films? Directed by Nolan. The Odyssey I haven't seen. Interstellar was outstanding. Inception I have not seen. Dark Knight I have not seen. Oppenheimer was okay. Then it was ghastly. Dunkirk was okay. Memento I haven't seen. Prestige I haven't seen. Okay, what else do we have? So how many of these have I seen? I've seen Interstellar, which was outstanding. Oppenheimer was okay. Tenet was terrible. Dunkirk was okay. Dunkirk was good, actually. Dunkirk was good. So yeah, it looks like he's a good director. Interstellar is a great example. I overall like his films. Tenet did not make any sense to me. Maybe I'm not intelligent enough to understand it, but yeah. I've heard that this new movie, The Odyssey, has elements of wokeness, let's say. Yeah, I don't know why he had to do that. Maybe Hollywood pressurized him or whatever, but okay. Yeah. Hope he doesn't turn more woke. I agree. Yes. Jai Tiwari says infra grew, but civic sense bad. Will people change? Infra has not grown anywhere near the level we need. Nowhere near the level we need. And civic sense will come when laws are enforced and there is no artificial scarcity. Right? Right. Okay. Richest Pakistani says, Namaste ji, namaste. Even if some groups migrated to India, what's the basis for claiming these migrants only wrote the Vedas as AIT jokers claim? There's no basis, there's no logic to it. Migration has been the history of humanity. India historically was the richest geography in the world, the most prosperous geography in the world, the most prosperous civilization in the world, the most advanced civilization in the world. Today, you will not believe it because today you're living in a broken country. But historically, India was that. Historically, everybody wanted to come to India because you had the highest living standards in India. You had the highest prosperity in India, the best law and order in India, all that. So obviously, migrant groups came to India. There was migration over time. Migration from Central Asia, migration from Mesopotamia, from Egypt, from Rome, from Ionia, Greece, all over the place. And these people settled in India. The Scythians returned to India about 2,200 years ago, right? The Huns settled in India in large numbers. The Kushans settled in India. So these are all migrations into India, right? They assimilated into India. So how much of their culture do we practice today? I mean, the Scythian Kushan culture was anyway Indian culture. The Hunnic culture was different. It was Turkic culture, essentially. So yeah, there's no question that groups migrated to India. That's normal. That's normal human behavior. But is there any logical basis to claiming these migrants only wrote the Vedas? None whatsoever. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Right? All right. Okay, Sandleaf says, quick science question. Why different galaxies are of different shapes? Some are elliptical, some are spiral, some have odd shapes. By the way, love your content and practical answers to all the questions, Leaf. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Leaf. Thank you. Why do galaxies have different shapes? Well, the shape of a galaxy depends on the way it was born, the way it evolved over time. Okay? So the most common shape is the spiral shape. Because, it's a collection of stars, massive collection of stars that grows and evolves over time, and it becomes a self-gravitating system of stars, and that's why it coalesces and it behaves as one single whole. And all these systems in space, they typically have a center of mass that's pretty dense, and everything revolves around that. That's something you saw in the proto-solar disk itself, and you see it commonly in protostellar disks. So that's why you have the same thing every time. But then some galaxies get disrupted. They get disrupted by maybe a merger with a neighboring galaxy. So that tears the whole thing apart. And that's why you have irregular shaped galaxies. Sometimes you can see two galaxies in the process of merging. So you have these, arms shredded apart, torn apart, and the two nuclei are dancing around each other in very, very slow motion, that sort of thing. So one of the reasons why you have sometimes distorted shapes is because of mergers and collisions of galaxies, which are not collisions, they are mergers. Or some become elliptical based on the dynamics of how they evolved over time. There are barred galaxies, galaxies with bars. Let me show you. Some galaxies even have bars. So this all depends on the dynamics. Galaxy shapes. Okay. So you have galaxies that have bars. Let me show you. Where do we have one of these here? Not exactly this. It's one of the more unusual shapes that you will find. See, this is a galaxy, two galaxies in the process of merging together. That's why they have this irregular shape. Here, once again, two are merging. Here, same thing over here. Now, so these different shapes come from the different ways they evolve. Okay, bar. So here you have essentially a bar, right? Galaxy morphology. So once again, you have a bar structure, bar-like structure here. See this bar-like structure. So it all depends on how the evolution of the galaxy happened. Sometimes you have mergers that happened billions of years ago, and that leaves behind characteristic, you know, signs or signatures in the shape of a galaxy. Sometimes you have star forming regions that affect how a galaxy evolves over time. So there are lots of different causes for the different shapes of galaxies. It all, when you see a galaxy of a certain shape, understand that this is telling you something about the history of the galaxy. What has happened to the galaxy during its lifetime in the past several billion years. So each shape tells a story, and each shape tells a different story. But overall, you see the same patterns recurring all over again: spiral galaxies, elliptical galaxies, irregular galaxies, bar shaped galaxies, and so on. These all tell you different stories. Kakashi says nationalist is a Western term. We are obsessed with it. Even Putin, Xi, Erdogan don't label themselves but use patriotism instead. India can keep its nationalism, SAR, and democracy and capitalism. Hope I'm wrong, but let's see where China is in 2047 versus Viksit Bharat if we are even still sovereign there. Look, I don't even know the difference between nationalism and patriotism. It's some semantic, hair splitting difference. Me, I see myself as a civilizationist. Yeah. I would like nothing more than to see India's civilization re-emerge and thrive and prosper. India should be a civilization state, not a nation state. Now, what's the difference between nationalism and patriotism? I'm not sure what it is. I've never bothered to find out. But yes, India, democracy, capitalism, all that. India should have its own system. India has, since 47 been aping the West, aping what the former masters have done in their domains, and we're just copying that. That's not the right approach for India. I hope we will be Viksit in 47 with the right leadership and so on. We'll see about that. Yeah. Kilki Sushant says, hope you're doing awesome. Thank you. I am. I hope you are too. Was working the nights, but learning is always. Feeling blessed. Spirit is uplifted. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for such a wonderful comment, such a lovely comment. Thank you so much, sir. All the best. Do well. And please keep watching. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kakashi says, Vajpayee act in national interest. Why people love Che Guevara? Okay. Which act of Vajpayee are you referring to? Are you referring to his decision to test nuclear weapons? If you're referring to that, it was very much in India's national interest. If he had not taken the decision then, maybe India would still not have been an active nuclear power today. So he bit the bullet and decided to demonstrate India's nuclear capabilities by testing 5 nuclear weapons. That took a lot of guts, right? Very much in the national interest. Mr. Vajpayee's decision to recognize Tibet as a part of China was not the best decision. But his decision to test nuclear weapons was the best decision anyone could have taken. So yeah, there you have that. Why do people love Che Guevara? Because of the propaganda around him, the mythology that's been constructed around him. That he was some kind of freedom fighter. He was fighting for God knows what ideals and all, right? The rebel who fought oppression, apparently. They won't tell you the truth about what he did, right? Execute God knows how many hundreds of people, helpless, defenseless people, because they did not believe in his communist ideology or whatever. So people, it's very easy to mislead people. It's very easy to create this charismatic portrait of a person who is long dead. That one portrait of his that is on every t-shirt, right? That sort of thing. Okay, Dheeraj Kamath says, if we don't spread the influence of Hinduism while Hindus convert to other religions, we will go extinct. I agree. It's a weakness. So, what's the solution? Do we start becoming an Abrahamic religion and start converting? Or are there other ways? Is this an example of refusing to go on the offensive and conquer? See, if Hinduism becomes a proselytizing religion, if it starts the process of conversions, yeah, you're going on the offensive. Yes, you're fighting fire with fire. But then you're changing who you are. Then you are no longer Hinduism. You are one of the Abrahamized religions, then, right? There has to be a different way. There has to be a different way. See, there's no conversion in Hinduism. Unless you want to transform and change the religion into something it is not. You think it's a weakness? Okay. My point is, Hindus never speak about Hinduism, right? Why not do that? Why not show how wonderful it is? Why not show how great it is? Go all out on the offensive in that manner instead of trying to dump somebody's head into water and baptize someone. If there is propaganda against Hinduism, counter it very strongly with the facts. That's what you do. Make Hinduism cool. Then people will become Hindus on their own, right? That's what people don't get. Why do people convert to a certain religion? Because they think it's fantastic, because they think it's cool or it's strong or whatever. Well, Hinduism, isn't it also cool and fantastic and strong? We have the greatest of the gods and goddesses, the coolest. Where did the superhero myth come from? Where did the superhero archetypes come from? They came from the Hindu gods and goddesses. It's been stolen from Hinduism. So go on an offensive if you want to, by showing the truth about Hinduism, by making Hinduism cool again. Then people will convert, like you say, convert on their own, instead of you going and telling people, Acha, ye, do this and put your head into this and I'll put water over you and I'll chant some mantra and now you're officially Hindu. That's not how it works. That is not Hinduism. That's my point. We can agree to disagree on this. Chill Panda says, how you have many times said you would prefer an enlightened autocracy over a democracy. But what if the next or the next leader aren't as great as the first one? Well, the same problem exists in democracy. You think this person is great, you vote for him, and then you see the truth. Then you waste 5 years. The same problem exists whether it is an autocracy or a democracy. That's my point. You see? Aman Kubar Dhankar says, if Earth temperature rising, increase the radius of orbit. Okay. How? My question is, how will you do it? Will you call Hanumanji to come and push the Earth away from the sun? If you increase the radius of the orbit, you know what else it will do? It will change the length of the day. It will change the length of the year as well. Instead of 365 days, the year is going to be more. It will cause nature to go haywire. You have to think of the second and third order and fourth order consequences of what you're saying. Right? It's going to have all those downstream consequences. That's going to cause mass extinctions on Earth. It's going to be like you slammed a comet onto Earth and killed off the dinosaurs. You may end up doing that again. So, you have to think of the downstream consequences. Chill Panda says, you say you want an education system where people can do deep critical thinking and ask questions, but you also said you prefer an autocracy. But what if they start questioning government and prefer a democracy? Well, let them choose. Let them choose. Who cares what I think and what I prefer? Let the people choose. I am one person. I may have my preferences. You may differ. Let the people choose. I want the people to choose. Do you understand? That's my point. That's my point. Let the people choose. Let the people question everything. The people should question everything. Yeah. If the people prefer a democracy, let's see. Haven't they already tried and tested democracy for the longest time now? Yeah. And if the people can think clearly and rationally, will they choose a democracy? No, idiots will choose a democracy. Right? My point is, let's ensure people aren't idiots anymore. Right. Kill Panda says, because, okay, it's a continuation. Because autocracies rely on people being absolutely loyal to the state. So why would they teach their own people to think for themselves? Right. So during the time of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, was the system that of keeping Indians ignorant? Because Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was running an autocracy. He was the monarch. Did he have an education system where people were taught to not think for themselves? When you had Sri Rajendra Chola ruling a vast empire, did his education system ensure that people can't think for themselves? When you had the great Gupta emperors, Skanda Gupta, Kumara Gupta, Samudra Gupta, ruling the entire subcontinent, did you have an education system in India that prevented Indians from thinking for themselves? When Sri Krishna ruled Dwarka, when Sri Ram ruled much of India, did you have an education system that prevented Indians from thinking for themselves? Please think about what you're saying. Please think about the logic of what you're saying. It was never the case. Superior TV says, why no MMA fighter uses Indian martial arts? Because we have lost which Indian martial art are you talking about? We have lost the Indian martial arts. The Indian martial arts no longer exist. You have something called Kalari Payutu, which is more of a dance or a performing art than a martial art. The ancient Indian martial arts are extinct. You have Manipuri martial arts, sure, even that is about 40-50% in existence today. The rest was wiped out by the British. So you have martial arts that survive in Manipur, which is actual combat martial arts. In Kerala, you have Kalari Payutu, which is more of a performing art. It's more of a dance, choreographed dance. Real martial arts are extinct in India. Which other martial arts exist? No one's going to use Kalari Payutu in MMA because it's not really a martial art. It's a performing art. If it was really a high quality martial art, then why would MMA fighters not use it? Right? The Indian martial arts are gone. You have something called Shastra Vidya, which is kind of an attempt to revive the old martial arts of India. I don't know how far that's progressed. Martial arts kind of still exist in the form of dances to some extent. For example, in Western India and Gujarat, you have Dandiya, right? You have a form of the Dandiya Ras with swords. And if you see that dance, you would see it's actually ancient sword fighting techniques. So you have some of that survive somehow. But overall, nah, it's been wiped out. Kakashi says, is it right to compare geopolitics to chess as many do? No, it's not. No. Chess has very strict and rigid rules, and it's a very contrived space of 64 squares. That's it. Geopolitics, if you want to compare it to something, you compare it with game theory. I mean, you can apply game theory to geopolitics. You can't apply game theory to chess. I suppose you can. You suppose you can, right? But chess is a very contrived thing. 64 squares with essentially infinite possibilities over there. But you can't really compare geopolitics with chess. Geopolitics operates on a much vaster scale. Geopolitics also has essentially infinite, plays you can make, but often they are constrained by your geography and so on. So it's not actually infinite. In chess, it's infinite. In chess, geography is not a factor. Culture is not a factor. So it's different. It's very different. I would not compare geopolitics with chess. Varinder Marwa says, we have always been connected with Central Asia before 47. Yes, we have. Always. We always had land routes to Central Asia. We were always connected to Central Asia. And we lost that because of 47, because of the decisions taken by our so-called founding fathers and leaders in 47. We lost our millennia-old access to Central Asia and Eurasia and Europe. We lost it. We gave it up, or your leaders gave it up. Kakashi says, when Iran says Israel has no right to exist, it's just words. Did Iran threaten Israel by action? It's a good question, yes. Second, is eating animals moral? Third, why are buildings in Israel ugly? Well, I have not traveled to Israel, so I don't know what kind of buildings you have in Israel. Are they ugly? Well, I don't know. Yeah, so I could not possibly comment about that. I haven't been there. Uh, when Iran says Israel has no right to exist, it's just words? Did Iran threaten Israel by action? As far as I know, Iran apparently has some kind of connection with Hamas. Okay, maybe Iran supports Hamas in some way, perhaps. So that could be actions instead of just words. Apart from that, you know, since you asked this question, it's interesting to note. Let's ask this question to our friend Google. Hmm? Did Israel ever sell weapons to Iran after 1979? Yes, Israel secretly sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weapons to Iran after the Islamic Revolution, primarily during the 1980s. Okay? Very interesting. And you can see why. You can read it up. You can look it up for yourselves. So, Israel has in the past sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weapons to Iran. It's just a fact. So, you could say Israel says that Iran has connections with Hamas. Probably it does. And that's why it's not merely words, it's also actions. Is eating animals moral? Well, that's entered. It's your choice. It's every individual's choice what they want to do or not. Look, your ancestors all ate meat. I'm not talking about 300 years ago or 500 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. Your ancestors ate meat for sure. Eating meat is normal in nature. Now, we are obviously not animals, we are higher evolved beings. So we may choose to do differently. So my point is that it's your choice. You make the choice. I am not going to tell you what is moral, what's not. If you think it's moral, eat. If you think it's immoral, don't eat. Each their own. Chill Panda says, why did the best declined? Why did the West? Are you saying West? Why did the West decline? Is it because they became way too powerful and rich, and due to that soft? It's like after World War One and World War Two, they just gave up to the USA. Okay, first of all, what do you mean by the West? Do you mean just Europe? Because the way I see it, the West is the whole of the West, west of the Caucasus, Europe plus the Americas. And the leader obviously is the US. So are you talking about Europe here? When you say best, do you mean the West? And when you mean the West, do you mean Europe? I'm going to assume both, that you mean West and you mean Europe. Why did Europe decline? Because the US took over. Europe was broken after World War One. The Americans stepped in and they took over the leadership. The one leader of Europe, the most powerful nation in Europe, it's the US, even though it's physically not in Europe, right? And yes, the Americans told Europe, you know what, we will take care of your defense, of your security. You don't have to build large standing armies. You don't have to do any of that. We will position our soldiers and our weapons in Europe. So you spend that money on social welfare, on your people, and so on. And that's why Europe became soft and completely dependent on the US. That's what happened. That's why Europe has declined in geopolitical power. It's essentially geopolitically irrelevant today. Fast Snail says, what's your take on Ayurvedic medicines? Should it be part of educational reforms to revive the same? Is it colonial mindset that has made people think it's inferior? See, Ayurveda is the oldest system of medicine. It was based on herbs and plants, right? Plant-based, herb-based medicine. And it was pretty effective. The thing about Ayurveda is that you don't extract active compounds out of the herbs and plants. You eat essentially the basma or whatever, which is the powdered form or tablet form of a plant. And that's why it's slower acting. it acts slowly. And a lot of these Ayurvedic herbs and treatments are not, have not, never been tested properly medically. For example, in the 1990s, a Chinese researcher, based on Chinese medicine, was able to extract artemisinin from a Chinese herb, which is one of the most effective treatments for malaria today. Similarly, there could be lots of really high quality treatments that could emerge from traditional Ayurvedic remedies. But in India, there's no research being done about this. Eventually, the West will do all the research and they will take everything, they'll patent everything. I think Ayurvedic medicine is a tried and tested system. It's been tried and tested for thousands of years. India should take it seriously. India should not do it, follow it blindly. Today we have 21st century technology and science and all. So take the Ayurvedic recipes. Let's say Brahmi. Let's say whatever Gugulu, various ashwagandha. What exactly is it about ashwagandha that makes it so effective? Because it is effective. Brahmi is also effective, but what exactly is it about Bacopa Monieri that makes it so effective in mental clarity and cognitive, strengthening and so on? That research, India is outsourcing it to the West. Aap log kar lo, hum kuch nahi karenge. That sort of thing. So I think it should be taken very seriously. Should it be part of educational reforms to revive it? No, it should be. I'm okay with that. My point is, it should be the focus of scientific inquiry, scientific research, biomedical, biochemical research. That's what needs to happen. Okay, Parvativari says, I want a book regarding critical analysis of post-independent India, especially against under Nehru. A book of critical analysis of post-independent India, especially under Nehru. I don't know any such book. I don't know any such book. I have not ever been inclined to read any books about India's history, post-independence history, Nehruvian history, etc. I've read some, obviously, but overall, it's not been the most favorite subject of mine. And critical analysis, I don't know if it even exists in India. Maybe now it's emerging, but I'm not aware of any. I'm very sorry. Okay, Kakashi says, search Hideki Makihara tweet on Indian Rail project. Sure. Hideki Makihara tweet on Indian Railway project. A viral critique on X blaming India 100% for delays in the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project. So claiming Indian negotiators broke promises, acted recklessly, and excluded Japan from the signaling system. And India's Ministry of External Affairs dismissed the remarks as an individual opinion at variance with facts. Okay. Yeah. It is what it is. I have no comments about that. I will not take this side or that side. My position is no comments. Very diplomatic position, right? Yes. Maybe that tells you something. Okay. Kakashi says the US pretends India oppresses protesters. In the US, for certain things like protesting for Gaza or against ICE, you can get brutalized or even killed. Hypocrites. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You protest against the US government about certain things, you're going to get shot. You try to take over the heart of a city, you're going to get shot. They don't ask questions there. It's a police state. The police doesn't get prosecuted for shooting people in the US. Very rarely, very, very, very rarely would it happen. So, obviously, it's hypocrisy. Obviously, it's double standards. You've got to earn the right to be a hypocrite, right? By becoming powerful. Chill Panda says, might sound cruel, but I believe Europe destroyed itself due to adopting multiculturalism, encouraging ideas of racial equality. What are your thoughts? I think Europe destroyed itself by outsourcing its security to the United States. I think Europe destroyed itself by becoming completely dependent on the US for security. And everything else that you're talking about is downstream of that. It's downstream consequences of that. When it comes to racial equality, well, I believe all races should be treated equally. Yeah. I have nothing against that. I think it's just basic human dignity that you treat everybody the same regardless of their skin color or whatever. So I have nothing against racial equality. I think racial equality should be a fundamental behavioral norm globally. Multiculturalism is a whole different can of worms. I am all about multiculturalism. I want each culture to thrive where it exists in its homeland. But no two cultures are the same. And sometimes two cultures don't belong together. So if you try to take 78 cultures from different parts of the world and force fit them into one country, it's not going to work. That's what Europe is doing. Their choice. What can I say? It's their choice. Right? Encouraging illegal immigration or legal immigration from certain kinds of countries and cultures. What are they doing? Yeah. Kakashi says, why every Western index on democracy, free speech, press freedom, happiness, quality of life, standards of living, etc. is biased? Syria is happier than India. Because these are tools to shape public opinion. Let's say you want to take military action against a specific country 10 years down the line. But that country is the harmless country that doesn't hurt anyone. So if you take military action against them, then your population will say that, what are you doing? They will not support the government. But what if you create this entire perception that this country is terrible? You use various indices: democracy index, free speech index, happiness index, quality of life, press freedom, and say that this country is very bad. And then you use think tanks and media to say that this country is oppressing people. Then 10 years down the line, after creating this perception over a decade, then if you attack them, your people won't care. You see, that's how it works. Sergeant Skylan says, with our current tech capabilities, can we make better drones in Iran? Yes. Kumar Kanishk says, why isn't India building particle accelerators like LHC? Does India even have a particle accelerator? And can you explain how it works very simply? First of all, how does a particle accelerator work? You take a tube and you vacuumize it. You remove all the air from it. You make it as perfect a vacuum as you possibly can. Then you take two guns, particle guns, and you fire particles at each other. That's a protons or neutrons or electrons or whatever. You fire particles at each other. And the place where the collision of the particles happens, maybe it's proton beams, over there you put a whole bunch of instruments that can essentially take pictures, in a sense, of what happens when these particles collide. When two protons collide into each other at extremely high speeds, relativistic speeds, they smash each other up. And what comes out of the debris of that collision is what you want to see. So you build a whole bunch of detectors of different kinds to detect what comes out of the debris of the collision. And from that, if the particles have high enough speed and energy, we may discover new particles out of the collision debris. That's the whole thing. That's what a particle accelerator is all about. Okay. And the higher the energy, the more relevant the results are going to be. So that's what it's all about. Now, it's not easy. The most powerful particle accelerator ever built is the Large Hadron Collider outside of Geneva, Switzerland. It's a massive thing. The whole particle collider. See, to accelerate the protons or the particles, you have to accelerate them in a circle, essentially. Okay, and that circle is what? That ring has a radius of 27 kilometers or circumference. What is it? Let's find out. What are the physical dimensions of the LHC? 27 kilometers circumference. Okay, right? France-Switzerland border. So it's it's enormous. It spans two countries. It costs billions of dollars. It consumes more electricity than a small country consumes in 1 year. Extremely complicated machine, an extremely costly to operate. And still, the only thing it was able to discover was the Higgs boson that was predicted in the 1950s. Now, if you want to make new discoveries, you need a particle accelerator that's even more powerful than this one, a super LHC. That's going to cost tens of billions of dollars. Yeah. So, does India have that kind of money? Probably not. Yeah. Why? It's a costly indulgence for India. India has some particle accelerators. We have some what? Do we have Van de Graaff generators? That's not a particle accelerator. We have a electron or something somewhere. I know where. TIFR Mumbai. We have something or the other. Nothing of any that's of a real, impact. But we are now perhaps in the process of building the Indian version of LIGO, the gravitational wave detector. India is not that ambitious in science. That's the main issue. But I'm not a big fan of building more particle accelerators. That's not the direction physics needs to go into. Harshit Parihar says, Japanese yen is in free fall. Even with US help, it did not work. Japan are forced to sell their US treasury bonds, but US won't allow them. What's the future of Japan? Japan, its future is entirely going to depend on what the US decides for Japan. Japan's demography has already been destroyed. Japan's TFR is less than 1, I'm sure, by now. Their population is already aging drastically. They're closing down schools now because there are no children being born, very few children being born. I don't know what the future of Japan is. The future of Japan seems to be, unfortunately, very sadly, pretty bleak. And the country is under US occupation. The US will decide what happens to the country. They may decide to bring in immigrants eventually. Yeah, we'll see. The future of Japan doesn't look good, unfortunately, and that's tragic. It's a wonderful, beautiful country, beautiful culture. Very sad. Chill Panda says, am I a bad person to agree with Hitler's ideology? Not the extreme ones, but the one which talked about homogeneous and pure bloodline than multiculture. Sir, it's your choice what you want to believe in, but I shall offer no comments about this. It's just a heart, says. DRDO succeeded in single crystal blade technology and is moving towards sharing that with the private sector. What is more important for engine making? So it looks like, even I've heard of this, that the DRDO has succeeded in developing single crystal blade technology, turbine blades, right? If you see a jet engine, you will see there are blades in the turbine, right? If you travel by commercial airplanes, you will see that they have engines, depending on how big the plane is. And those engines have turbine blades, which are pretty visible, very clearly visible, and there's rotate. So those turbine blades are made of single crystals, metallic crystals. So DRDO has developed that, and it's moving towards sharing that with the private sector, which is good. So it's a private sector in India which will actually manufacture the turbine blades which go into the jet engine. So I think that's great. Fantastic. Notes Bucket says, future of Sanskrit studies in India. I hope the future is bright. I would like Sanskrit to be India's official civilizational language, which means that all education should be given in 2 languages, your mother tongue and Sanskrit. If the government agrees to that, the future is bright. Otherwise, slow decline. Mayur Goakar says, India 2047, complete the sentence. India 2047, powerful country. Civilization again, I hope. Yeah. Harshvardhan says, should India mimic China's South China Sea stance? It's one thing to mimic something. The other thing is to have the capability to mimic something. India can say that the Bay of Bengal is Indian now. Nobody's allowed. But to say that is different from making that actually happen. For that, you need a massive navy. So it's China's South China Sea stance exists because China first did the hard work. They built a massive navy. So I would say yes, India should do the same thing. India should first build a massive navy and then start saying it's our own. It's our own private sea now. Yeah. Cavalier the 17th says, we boasted about ISRO's low cost missions, but underpaying scientists and engineers drives talent away, hurting India's space program long term too. Yes, India boasts about the wrong things. We have space programs on shoestring budgets. It's not something to boast about. It's lamentable that we have such situations. I've been saying this for years, right? That ISRO is severely underfunded. The government seems to have no ambition in space at all. So I have never boasted about ISRO's low cost missions. It's terrible that we have such low cost missions. And yeah, what are the salaries of scientists and engineers in ISRO? If you underpay people, they're going to move away. Of course, they'll move away. How do you show? How do you tell somebody you value them if you're an employer? Not by giving them a pat on the back and saying nice things to them. You show that you value them by paying them the right salary, a high salary. The amount of money you pay them as salary is a direct indicator of how much you value them, right? So India is all about words but no actions. So if you underpay people, they're going to move away. That's what will happen, right? That'll hurt India's space program long term. I agree. You're right. Stalingrad says, will any country ever develop a bioweapon kind of virus which can affect the central nervous system of humans and create zombies like shown in sci-fi movies? You know what? Anything's possible. As long as it does not violate the laws of physics. Anything's possible. Yeah. I think it's not outside the realm of possibility. Okay. Rish Pip says the gunas are superfields. Sattva is gravity, space-time background. Rajas is gauze, interaction, transformation. Tamas is matter, inertia. Could you please research, like to collaborate if okay? Yeah, look, I don't mix philosophy and science. I'm very sorry, I don't do that. The gunas are Indian philosophy. And philosophy is absolutely logical. It has its own logic. But look, I have no background in philosophy. I don't know what sattva is, what rajas is, what tamas is, etc. I don't know these things. So if I were to look into this, I would have to first go and study all of this and learn all of that. And then, is there an actual correspondence? Because there was no space-time concept 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. So, it's always tempting to try and find correspondences between something that was ideated, conceived several thousand years ago, and match it one to one with something that's very new science. I'm not saying it's impossible that would be the case, but I prefer not to mix philosophy with science. I look into it. If I find something genuinely, intriguing or viable, sure, we'll see. All right. Thank you. Sunil says, why is our tourism so bad? Don't get me started. Why is tourism and culture are super neglected domains in India? What would you do as tourism minister? Tiny nations like Thailand do it very well. Thailand is not tiny, by the way, but it's smaller than India, but it's not tiny. What areas will you improve? Make tourists feel welcome when they come to India. Tourists are treated like dirt in India. Let's say you come on a cruise ship, you want to, visit a city, you're going to be made to stand under the sun in a line for 2-3 hours just to get your visa, your passport stamped. Once you get your passport stamped after spending 3 hours in the sun, now you have to find a bus or transportation and you have to go through a traffic jam. That takes another 2 hours. And then 5 hours are gone. You had 8 hours to see the city, 5 hours are gone. Will you ever return to India again? Then, when you go to whatever tourist destination, are the facilities decent? Do they have clean public toilets there? No. And foreigners are made to pay much more than Indians to see a monument. So let's say for Indians it's 50 rupees, for foreigners it'll be $50 or something, or 500 rupees, 10 times. Why? Why? So overall, it's just ridiculous the way we do things. Our monuments are not well maintained. They're not easy to reach. Overall, it's just completely neglected. And the main thing is that visitors are not made to feel welcome. They're made to feel like we don't care about you. Why are you here? We don't care. That's what India does. So the basics need to be improved. Why do we even have a tourism ministry if they will not look into these things? India should be a tourism superpower. India should be an absolute tourism superpower, a behemoth in tourism. And yet, with just lack of, they just don't care about tourism. That's the problem. A significant percentage of your GDP can come from tourism, but they don't care. There must be some reason why they don't care about that GDP increase from tourism. Okay. Jagadalla Mahavihar says some South Indian and Sri Lankan kids look more malnutritious compared to other parts of the subcontinent. X rich to eat non-veg, not color, just physic wise. Is there a question? Is that a statement? For example, they're rich too, they eat non-veg, not color, skin color, but physique wise. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. Have I noticed that? I'm not sure. So you're just making a statement. You're not asking a question, right? Yeah, okay. Noted, sir. I will look into it if that is indeed the case. Kaiser Jose says, if consciousness emerges from matter, why can losing one person, the breakup story, sorry, sir, for this question, why can losing one person make the whole universe feel different? Because this has nothing to do with consciousness. First of all, you're saying if consciousness emerges from matter. Does it actually emerge from matter? We don't know, right? We don't know. So let's not make the presupposition that consciousness emerges from matter. We don't know what consciousness is, first of all. Whether it's an emergent property, whether it's something else, we don't know. We don't know anything about consciousness. So let's not make the presupposition or assumption that consciousness emerges from matter. We don't know that. We don't know. Now the question is, why can losing one person make the whole universe feel different? Because you loved that person, I suppose. Right? Well, what is love? Let's say you love a mountain. Why do you love it? Because there is something about the mountain that when you see the mountain, it uplifts you. It makes you feel good. It evokes joy in you. When you see it, you say, yes, beautiful, or whatever, right? It uplifts you somehow. If you see a landscape, it uplifts you, you love the landscape. Similarly, a person can evoke the same feelings in you. And when the person is no longer with you, you've, let's say, broken up or whatever, then you no longer have access to that. That's why the whole universe feels like there's no joy in it. You've lost your source of upliftment, of joy. So that's why it feels different, right? All right, all the best. Get over it, sir. Get over it. Vikram says Christianity will be revived and survive in the West? ? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It depends on what the West does with itself. What the West chooses. It looks like they have chosen something else, possibly. Their leaders, at least. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. I can't say. I can't make predictions. I think it's kind of like 50-50 perhaps. Jethakara says, love your podcast with Gold Brass Podcast. Okay. You said you somewhat more candid compared to other podcasts. You mentioned India should expand Siliguri and connect Northeast with the sea. What's the best timeline to do it? Tomorrow morning, I'd say. What? How long do you want to wait? You want to do something, do it. There's no right time or wrong time. Do it and face the consequences. Yeah. Or you could wait another 5 years, 10 years until we have more powerful weapons and better navy or whatever. If that's being planned, it's being executed, then we can wait 10 years. What my best timeline is tomorrow morning or next 10 years. Yeah. Gaurav Pandey says, can you recommend any book to understand the Nehru era politics from an unbiased POV? I have not read any such book. I don't know. How did Nehruvian socialism affect India's early years? It prevented India from growing economically. When you are a broken nation rising back on its feet, you should be growing at 10-15% per year GDP wise if you make the right choices. But India, it suffered the Nehruvian rate of growth, 2-3% a year. Ridiculous. I don't know any book about Nehruvian era politics because it's not a subject that I enjoy, and I'm not bothered to read about it. Extremely depressing subject. Why would I read books about that? So I don't know any book. Sorry about that. It's me, Brain Griffin says, in the long term, what is good, yoga or gym? Long term, yoga is better. Yoga is better. Long term, yes. J. Tagada says, do you know anything about Pushpagiri Mahavihar University? How it was destroyed? How come all universities fell and no kings could stop it? Are you coming to Jaipur Dialogues? I don't know about this specific university, so I'm not sure how it was destroyed, unfortunately. How come all universities fell and no king could stop it? They did not fall in one day. They fell slowly as the Turkic occupation expanded across India. So whenever they conquered a new place, they destroyed it. The question you're asking is, how come India fell to the Turks? It happened over centuries because India was not politically unified under a single emperor. That's why. Am I coming to Jaipur Dialogues? Yes, I'm coming. Yes. Kakashi says, nationalism in India means we control destiny and sovereignty. Patriotism means you love your country. Oh, is it like that? That's the semantic difference. So if you want to control your destiny and sovereignty, you're a nationalist. If you simply love your country, you're a patriot. In the West, nationalism means plunder and destroy other nations to benefit your elites. By God, that's nationalism in the West. Look, you would not want to control your destiny and your sovereignty if you did not love your country. So that's my point. Why are there two terms that have different meanings? If you love your country, you will want to control its destiny and sovereignty. What's wrong with that? So from my perspective, I don't know why these two separate terms have two different meanings. In the West, nationalism seems to have a bad meaning. Plunder, destroy other nations to benefit elites in yours. Okay. All right. Okay, Piyush Sinha says some liberals and their akka in India got triggered after PM Modi's urban Naxals remarks, and some of them are openly claiming that yes, they are. How far can they go to please their masters? Okay, I'm not aware of this, but all right. I don't know who has said what. And I'm not sure what Prime Minister Modi has said. Urban Naxals remarks. Okay, I'm not aware of that. Anyhow, all right. Yeah, you have such people in India, for sure. We know that, don't we? Chill Panda says, when I talked about Europe and USA West decline, I meant not geopolitically, I meant culturally. Extreme. Even that is a consequence of geopolitics. Do you understand that, please? Everything is interrelated, interconnected. Your geopolitical decisions are going to affect things that happen culturally. Extreme individualism, nuclear family, love being transactional, then true. Those things pass to us. Culturally, yes, but it's a consequence of its geopolitical choices. Extreme individualism is not a European trait. It's an Anglo-Saxon trait. Okay? Nuclear family, once again, Not really a European trait, an Anglo-Saxon trait. Love being transactional and all, I don't know about that. It's the Anglo-Saxons who are extreme individualists. If you go to mainland Europe, they respect their elders. I mean, historically they did. In the Anglo-Saxon world, they don't respect elders. They treat elders like trash. In Europe, they actually used to respect their elders. I don't know how it is now. Family values are important in Europe, but now you will see all of this creeping in. It's because of geopolitical decisions. Please understand that these are not separate things. Yes, reality is all inclusive. Says thoughts on Clay Shirky's end of audience theory. I have no idea what that is. What is that? Clay Shirky end of audience theory. Traditional passive media audience no longer exists. Driven by the internet and social media, people have transformed from passive consumers into active prosumers who create, share, and talk back to media producers. Yeah, I mean, what is this? What we're doing here? You're not an audience, right? You are participating. We are having a dialogue here. We are having a conversation. You ask me questions, I answer them. Then you ask me a further question, and then answer that, right? That's what we're doing. And we have been doing this since 2021. This is episode 376 of Ask Abhijit. Episode 1 was in what? 2021. So this is interaction. It's you are not a passive audience. At least those of you who are asking questions, right? So yeah, to some extent that's the way it is. You had web 1.0, then web 2.0. Now we have a different kind of web. Now we have agentic internet and so on. So yeah, it's phases that we pass through. Piyush Sinha says, Safed Booth 67 says, despite being $4 trillion economy, why per capita is so low? Because you divide the 4 trillion by 1.4 billion. That's why it's so low. It's as simple as that. We are a $4 trillion economy. But why is per capita so low? Because we are dividing by 1.4 billion. That's why. That's why. It's mathematics. So why is it so low compared to much lower economic country than us? Is it because of agrarian, mostly our country? What? Okay, why is it like this? Why has India's economy not grown? Why is it not 40 trillion instead of 4 trillion? Is that the question? It's because we have not industrialized. What happened to Make in India? What happened to ease of doing business? We haven't done the reforms. Foreign investors are not that willing to invest in India because it's so hard for them to do business in India. We have all these problems. We haven't reformed the things. We haven't reformed our system. That's why. And we haven't become a major manufacturing power. What happened all these years? What happened to Make in India? Why are we a nation of only slogans? That's why, you see. Okay. Vedic Post says, should we transfer savings in dollars to Indian rupees since the US dollar doesn't look promising in the future? Any suggestions for especially NRIs? I cannot give you financial advice. I am not the right person to ask this question. I am not an expert in these matters. I would not venture any answer to this question because I am not an expert in this. I have no idea what's going to happen. If I give you some advice, you take the advice and something else happens, what? I'm going to feel responsible for that, right? I'd rather not do that. So I'm very sorry. I cannot answer your question because I don't have sufficient understanding and knowledge of this particular matter. I don't know. All right. Sorry about that, but I can't. Okay. Piyush says, James England asks if intelligent aliens see Earth 80 light years from now. 80 light years from now. It's like saying, if I see you 80 meters from now, a light year is not a unit of time, it's a unit of distance. So if you have intelligent aliens 80 light years away and they're seeing Earth from the telescope and they will see the World War II still happening, yeah. Keep going would never have been formed yet. Is this what they see? What? If intelligent alien sees Earth from 80 light years away, World War II will still be happening for them. That's what they will see. Keep going would have never been formed. Yet is this what they see? I don't know what the question is. Keep going would have never been formed. Yet is this what they see? What does that mean? We have been sending reached 200 light years. We have been sending what? The Earth has been in existence for 4.45 billion years. So light from the Earth has gone that far. 4.45 billion light years away. I'm not really sure what question you're asking. Unfortunately, I would have loved to answer your question, but I'm not able to understand what you're asking. So I'm very sorry. Keep going would have never been formed yet. Is this what does it mean? I can't get it. I'm very sorry. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry. Won't be able to answer you. So sorry. Kakashi says Che and Stalin were ruthless cause the US empire was. Executing people or elites who are genuine anti-nationals or corrupt is wise. Probably two sides to a story. Probably two sides to a story. Probably. Probably. All right. Angad Grival says, is Thiel threat to humanity? And please give shout out to BWF World Champ for encouragement. Please help Minerva Football, this last hope for Indian football. Who is BWF World Champ? Who is the BWF World Champion? BWF World Champion. Who is the BWF World Champion? You mean championship? Are you saying give a shout out to the championship? Okay, shout out to the championship. All right. Please help Minerva Football. Last hope for Indian football. I hear that they are doing exceedingly well. So great job. And yeah, I wish them success. Is Thiel's threat to humanity? I don't know. I don't know. Can't say, sorry. Okay, Sagar Ghare says, Sar, we often hear never give up. But when should one accept that a goal may not be achievable? For example, UPSC aspirants trying for 3-4 years. How do you decide when to move on? If you're smart, you decide when to move on before you start. Let's say you want to do the UPSC, crack the UPSC and become an IAS officer. Okay. So let's say today you decide, okay, I'm going to study for the UPSC. Let's say it takes me 1 year to study and then I'll sit for the exam. So when you make the decision that I'm going to do this seriously, at that time itself, we should decide I will do 3 attempts maximum or 4 attempts maximum. After that, I'll not continue. That is the right way to do things. This should be a pre-planned thing. Should not be like, okay, I'm going to keep trying forever until I'm 75 years old. I mean, yeah, you get the point, right? Shouldn't be like that. It should be done strategically. You should decide how many attempts you will do before you even start preparing. That's the right way to do it. So you should not give up until it is time to give up. And that what is the time to give up? That is something you should decide in advance. It's like mountaineering. Let's say you're trying to climb a mountain. Let's say it's Aconcagua. Let's say it's Popocatépetl. I would not recommend that one because it's a volcano, but you get the point. Maybe it's Everest. Maybe it's Kanchenjunga, whatever, right? So let's say you have gone to base camp, you've progressed to camp 2, camp 3, and now it's the last climb. So you start in the early morning, let's say 5 a.m. With the break of dawn, you start climbing. It's the last push to the summit. You're going to have a turn back time, which means that let's say by 3 p.m., if I have not made the summit, no matter how close the summit is, I'm going to turn back. And that, if you don't do it, it may end up costing you your life. So that's something you plan in advance. And of course, some people get tempted and sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't come back. So there is something called a turnaround time. That okay, 3 p.m. or whatever the time is, I need to come back. I need to turn around and come back no matter how close I am to the summit. If I've not made the summit already, that's something you plan in advance so that you don't end up staying behind on the mountain, right? That's how you do it. All right. So don't be like, oh, never give up. No. You have to be strategic about this. Shri Krishna once left a battlefield because it did not make sense to stay there. Learn. Piyush Sinha says the people complaining about declining rupees versus dollar do not have any idea about what will happen if we move from a floating exchange rate to a fixed exchange rate. Could you please explain it more? If we fix $1 50 rupees. I'm not sure how to explain this. I've never thought about this. I've never thought about how to explain this. How will it be? What will happen if we move from a floating exchange rate to a fixed exchange rate? We used to have a fixed exchange rate. I'm not sure how to explain it, unfortunately. Yeah. Maybe I'll think about it and explain it next time. Piyush Sinha says, since Manhattan Brosis was requesting so much to ask this, hypothetically, if ISS fell on Earth flat land and ignore all the friction, what happens in the atmosphere? What will happen? Okay, the International Space Station, if it hypothetically falls on Earth, flat land, ignore the friction. So if you don't ignore the friction, it burns up in the atmosphere and debris fall to Earth. But let's say there's no friction. It falls straight to Earth on flat land. What happens? It crashes. There's damage on the ground. Massive damage. Yeah. So yeah, you can play that game. Physics problems are like that. Ignore friction and so on. Okay. So there is, let's say it falls. It re-enters the atmosphere. Let's say there's no friction. It falls to Earth. It's gonna create massive damage on the surface. That's what will happen. What happens in the atmosphere? If there's no friction, nothing will happen. Since you are saying there should be no friction, then nothing will happen in the atmosphere. It'll glide through without friction. Right? Okay. Piyush Sinha says, Manhattan I6W question. Did you think in this way Trump does not care about US soldiers' casualties? More Trump drags more war, soldiers will come home in body bags, the nation will support him more to send boots. What are you asking me? Did I think Trump does not care about US soldiers' casualties? Soldiers, if you are the US president, are a disposable asset. Some presidents care about soldiers. For some presidents, look, overall, if you're the commander in chief and you order a military operation, you're going to expect a certain number of casualties. Casualties are a given in war, whether you care or not, right? Does Trump care? I don't know. I don't know how to. I don't read his mind, so I don't know. And this more Trump drags war, more soldiers will come home and body bag. The nation will support him more to send. I don't know what that means. I'm trying to figure out what the question means. More Trump drags war, more soldiers will come home in body bags. The nation will support him more to send. No, see, if there are lots of casualties, the nation will not support that. Okay. Ashutosh Malgaonkar says, can World War III even happen? Yes, it can happen. It's just a bunch of large nations doing salami slicing against each other now and avoiding escalation. What would cause World War III? A miscalculation. Somebody launching a missile would cause World War III. What kind of missile? Not a cruise missile, a ballistic missile. That can cause World War III. One miscalculation. Somebody launching an ICBM will cause World War III. If it is aimed at one of the major nations. Yes, straightforward. Straightforward, it'll cause World War III. It'll cause a full-fledged nuclear exchange. Because nobody's going to wait to confirm what the ballistic missile is carrying. If you launch one, I'm going to launch one immediately. That's how it goes. Okay, Kakashi says, race is a construct based on appearance, no biological basis. Culture is real. I agree. Culture is real. Race is a construct. Yes. I mean, yeah, sure. It's based on physical appearance. But biologically, If you go to the DNA level, we are essentially the same, right? Um, yeah, culture is real. I agree. India has many subcultures and so-called races, but there should be one overarching culture. That one overarching culture is what we call Indian civilization. We have so much diversity and variety at the local level. You travel from one city or one town to the next, the cuisine changes, the language changes, the clothing changes, everything used to change. Now it's the same, it's all uniform now. That's how it used to be. So there should be one overarching culture. I agree. There should be one unifying civilization language. Then there is just one civilization. I agree. Piyush Sinha says, extreme player, sir, does humanity start in India? Because India has proof of Narmada man, which is older than African migration to India. The problem is that the Narmada man is not Homo sapiens. It's probably Homo erectus or probably Homo erectus. So Narmada man is not Homo sapiens. When we're talking about humanity, we're talking about Homo sapiens. Before Homo sapiens, you had Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo this, Homo that, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalis, and so on. Those are sister lineages, or perhaps more ancient lineages. We are concerned about the origins of Homo sapiens. And the oldest evidence of Homo sapiens is from Jebel Irhoud in North Africa, about 400,000 years before today, roughly. Amisha Mishra says, if you could rewrite India's freedom struggle, what untold perspectives would you include? Does current history suffer from mainstream bias? Happy 80th Indian, Independence Day. If I could rewrite India's freedom struggle, you mean write a new book about India's freedom struggle? If I were to write an uncensored book about India's freedom struggle, I will not do that, obviously, which is why I can't tell you what I would write. What freedom struggle? The freedom struggle ended in 1856. 1857, sorry. That was the Indian freedom struggle. We lost. They killed off all of your royal families who fought for India. They killed them off. And they installed puppets and called them princely states. Okay, not all the original royal families were killed off. Some survived because they didn't fight, because they were sensible or whatever. So the freedom struggle ended there. After that was all stage managed. It was all choreographed. Yeah, non-violence and ahimsa and all that. You call that a freedom struggle, really? So, does current history suffer from mainstream bias? History always suffers from mainstream bias. Always. It's always been that way. What untold perspectives would I include? I would include the perspective. I would write about 1857, perhaps. But then I would have to do a lot of research first of all, because I'm no expert in that right now. But yeah, I would write about what happened to those kingdoms that fought the British. Yeah, I would write about that perhaps. Okay, Kakashi says India should not be careful to fall for something slop or that slop or West right wing conservative slop online, as they easily do. Think for yourself, focus on yourself only. I completely agree with you that India should not focus for any kind of slop, no matter what it is. Yeah, think for yourself, but Indians can't think for themselves because the education system robs them of the ability to think critically. Indians can't think for themselves. Indians can only regurgitate what somebody else thinks. That's true for the majority of Indians. Not you, because you're watching me here. But most Indians, they can't think for themselves. They don't know how to ask questions. They don't know what question to ask. So yeah, Indians should think for themselves and focus on India only. I agree. Rohan Bidi says, Moon, Earth, Sun, Milky Way, black holes, pulsars all revolve. Why is a revolution so common? Any evidence if the universe itself revolves? We don't have evidence the universe itself revolves, but why is revolution so common? Because of gravity. Because of gravity. See, it's like this. Gravity comes from the curvature of space-time. Mass curves space-time, and the curvature of space-time tells mass how to move. It's like both are acting on each other. So let's say you have an object here, okay, and some particle is falling towards it. The particle is not going to be in a straight line with the center of gravity of this object. So it'll be at an angle to it, but then it gets affected, right, by the gravity. So then it curves around and then goes into a circle. And that's how all particles, when they are attracted towards the center of mass of a system, they are all traveling in some direction or the other, which is not aimed at the center of mass. So then they are dragged from their trajectory and they curve towards the particle and end up perhaps orbiting it or whatever. That's what causes the phenomenon of revolution. That's why it's ubiquitous. It's common all across the place, across the universe, because that's how it goes. Okay, Enlightened says, why did Great Britain accept the Anschluss? For the sake of peace, I suppose. Peace. First of all, what was the Anschluss? Anschluss. What was that? The military takeover of Austria by Nazi Germany, right? So the thing is, see, Britain wanted peace. I think it was Chamberlain, right? Neville Chamberlain, who was the prime minister of the UK at the time. And the guy wanted peace. He did not want the UK to go to war with Germany. That's why he was able to bow down, bend over backwards to appease Hitler. As long as Hitler, well, as long as Hitler, I don't know what, but yeah, they wanted to appease Hitler. They did not want to go to war as far as possible. And that's why, okay, TK, you take that. Okay. Now please don't take any more. But then he takes more. They said, no, stop. Don't take any more after this. No, he'll take more. That's what happened. Eventually, they had no choice but to go to war. Piyush Sinha says, please check out Pakistan President stat on Hindus. Stat. Pakistan President stat on Hindus. Um, 4% Hindu is free as anywhere else. Oh, how do I care what he says? Okay. Stalingrad says, why Israel always gives a safe house to the island guy? Who's the island guy? Which island guy? I don't know which island guy you're referring to. All right. Kakashi says, some Israeli scholars support the Aryan invasion theory, perpetuate caste system myths, claim Jews were discriminated in India. There are also a few Pakistani journalists in Israel. Okay, I'm not aware of this, but if you say so, all right. I am not aware of this. Jews were discriminated against in India. Are you kidding me? Seriously? Okay. And Israel publications who are pro-Israel but anti-India. Very interesting. Okay. Second, Modi called Hamas out by name in Israel for October 7 because Hamas visited LET in Pakistan. POK. Okay. Israel publications who are pro-Israel but anti-India. Okay. I have not looked into these matters, but all right. It's possible. Modi called Hamas out by name. Did he? In Israel? Okay, if he did so. Yeah, some Hamas terrorists did visit LET in POK. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Okay. Piyush says, no questions in my mind. Till then, what's up, sir? How was the day and your daily routine? How do you keep yourself busy and away from social media? How's your health? Does your back hurt in long sessions? Flexible chair? I have a straightforward basic chair. I have done 8-hour plus sessions. My back doesn't hurt. You've got to take care of yourself. So yeah, my back is fine. No issues. My health is good. No issues. I fall sick very, very rarely. Once in a few years, once in 2-3 years, and hopefully it stays that way. My day has been good. I woke up in Bangalore. Here I am here in Mumbai now. It's been a long day for me actually. I slept on the aircraft a bit. I was supposed to read something, but the book remained unopened. And yeah, how do I keep myself busy? I am way too busy. I have so much that I'm doing, which you will see eventually. I've got stuff I'm working on. I'm very busy. I've got deadlines, self-imposed deadlines, and so on. So I'm super busy. Social media? What social media? No time for it. Okay. Kanglei. Super sticker. Thank you so much, Kangle. Kangle. Thank you so much. Hope everything is well. Things will be fine. Prakashi says, Yuval Noah Harari Sapiens is a WEF linked Israeli. Is he Israel? He's Jewish for sure. I know that. I don't know about the WEF links. Is he Israeli? What is Yuval Noah Harari's nationality? Israeli. Okay, he is Israeli. All right. So he's Israeli, he's Jewish. I don't know about the WEF links. I can't stand his writing. He talks about human beings the way a scientist talks about bacteria. Okay. Okay, Rish Pep says gunas are basis for Ayurvedic doshas, real material impact, not just philosophy, sir. Okay. Dosha imbalance is potential difference like in guna like battery. Okay, sir, you can draw these analogies, all right. Okay, I hear you. Doshas, gunas. So the gunas are the basis for Ayurvedic doshas. The Ayurvedic doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, etc. I think there was some research done on that. And there seems to be some genetic basis to that. It's not just all hand waving and BS. Very interesting. Very interesting now. You have me intrigued over here. All right. I'll look into this. Thank you. I'll look into this. Piyush says, asked everything, forgot about your skin and hair care routine. How about that? Fair and lovely. I'm a guy. I wash my face with soap and wash my hair with shampoo and I'm good to go. There's no other hair care routine, skin care routine, nothing. Ladies have all kinds of detailed routines and stuff. I'm just a guy. No routine. That's it. Kakashi says, Klaus Schwab, WEF chair's father was a little Nazi. Ooh, terrifying, terrifying. Yeah, okay. All right, interesting. Piyush Sinha says, Lone Wolf Warrior said a somewhat harsh truth. Indians are good at fighting against other Indians only. It took several sacrifices to unify a country and just one idiot to break up all. Indians, yeah. Today, Indians are extremely argumentative. They love arguing all day, all night. That's why they watch these news debates. And Indians, yeah, fight each other. Indians were very good at fighting foreigners too. But of late, it's been like that. Yes, of late. Varinder Barwa says Ganga Mesolithic bones were tall, like Africans and now. The average height of the skeletal remains that have been recovered is in excess of 6 feet. It's taller than modern Africans. And I think the changes happen because of changing diet and so on. Yeah, the Mesolithic bones that were discovered were what, 30,000 years old? Something like that. What was the Mesolithic period? What do we mean by the Mesolithic? Around 10,000 BC. No, I think the Ganga bones were. Okay, look, I will not go and look it up now, but human remains were discovered that were about 30,000 years old in the Ganga Valley region. And those were like all in excess of 6 feet. So yeah, that's a long time ago. Changes happen in your lifestyle, diet, etc., which change your stature and so on eventually. Piyush says, Ayush Singh asks, why is the West more often negative towards India than China? Why do its media and research seem biased? And why glorify dead civilizations over living ones? They glorify the civilizations they have destroyed or conquered. So those civilizations are no longer threats to the Western hegemony and imperialism. That's why it's fine to say nice things about them. That's why they glorify dead civilization, like the Greek civilization and so on. Or conquered cultures like Polynesian culture, etc. Even Japan, they are indulgent toward Japan because Japan is occupied, right? But India is not occupied by the West. It's still standing on its own. That's why they demonize India. Why are they more negative towards India than China? Because China is a gone case. China is they can't do a thing about China. And they respect the fact that China is so powerful economically and now even militarily. They respect that. They, I suppose, are not yet able to respect India sufficiently, because India has not given them enough cause to respect India. That's why you have this negativity. Okay, Rita Mishra says, can Bharat hold its own in a war with Pakistan and Muslim NATO? Yes. If a war happens today, we will annihilate them. Yeah. Piyush Sinha says, Safed Booth asks, watched one podcast where AIM explains how Israel has this program. They pick young, curious students and expose them to secret military technology, etc., give them training and build careers. Your opinion? Um, my opinion. If this is true, then it's fantastic. It's good for Israel if they do that. So that's what happens when you have a country that's very clear about what it wants to do in life, in its existence, what its future should be. A country that has a high quality education system, high quality, defense manufacturing and so on, research and development, and they bring everything together. I'm sure Israel does this. It's fantastic. That's what they should do, and that's what India should learn from potentially. Yash Patel says, "What if Netanyahu, Trump, Modi loses Israel midterms? You what? What if Netanyahu, Trump, Modi loses Israel midterms? Oh, what if Netanyahu loses Israel, Trump loses midterms, Modi loses UP? The world will go on. Things will change somewhat. Yeah." Kakashi says, another reason why Mexico and Brazil have more crime violence is because CIA and US money helps the cartels in drug trade, crime, and their vassals. Not issue for us. Can I disagree with you? Hard to disagree. Okay, Piyush says, Ghost asked, please ask my question as well. How long do you think it will take to unify general relativity and quantum mechanics? Well, it will take one person to do it, perhaps. Maybe 10 years, 15 years. If, it took Einstein, what, 9 years, 10 years to go from special to general. Special was where it all started, but general took a whole different conceptual breakthrough, right? General relativity, I mean. So unification of general relativity and quantum mechanics, the thing is, that's very different mathematics. General relativity is all about tensor calculus, and quantum mechanics is a mishmash of various things, linear algebra, differential equations, and so on and so forth. How do you bring these together? I think it'll take one spark of genius from one person to do it. But yeah, the whole process may take a couple of decades, perhaps. So I'm hoping I don't know if it'll ever happen also, but let's see. Yeah, it could happen in a couple of decades, potentially. Yeah. Dheeraj Kamath says, if universe doesn't rotate, won't everything get pulled towards the common center of gravity? Therefore, it must be rotating. Am I wrong? No, it doesn't have to. The thing about the universe is that it is not static. You're assuming the universe is static, but it's not static. It's expanding. It's expanding. Everything is getting stretched out. Space-time is getting stretched out. It's expanding, and the expansion is accelerating. And what's causing this? We're not quite sure. We call it dark energy. What it is? What is it? We don't know anything about it. Yeah. So yeah, this is experimental observational evidence. The universe is expanding. So how will everything get pulled towards any hypothetical center of gravity? It won't. You see, that's the deal. That's the thing. What's my favorite bike and car? I don't have any favorite bike or car. I don't. Rich Pep says, need people like you into guna and doshas. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will certainly look into this, because I remember several years ago, I must have tweeted about this, like in 2016, 2017 or thereabouts. Shall we go and find that? Let's open my Twitter. Give me a second. Twitter. All kinds of weird stuff turns up on Twitter. Okay, so where's my Twitter? Let us try and search. Do we have gunas? Nothing gunas. Doshas. Dosha. Pitta. This is from 2018. Okay, later. Genetic study substantiates the ancient Ayurvedic concept of three prakritis, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Finds that it has a genetic basis. This is the first study that convincingly correlates genomic variations with the classification of Prakriti. It's a Nature article, which means you have to take it seriously. So you can check out this tweet of mine. I will also look into this again. But yeah, I remembered after you said this. I remembered this. I had actually tweeted about that. All right, I'll look into this. Thank you. Adrianople says, which countries have ICBMs? Does India have it? The US has it. Russia has it. China has it. France and the UK have ICBMs. India's status is ambiguous. Do we not? We have missiles with 7,000, 8,000 range, but is that the full range? We have maintained a posture of ambiguity about this. What's my opinion? We have it. Yes, it's no big deal. We have it. Kakashi says, 1 out of 2. We are obsessed with Western terms like wokeness in the politics. They deserve wokeness. They oppressed people of other races, women's, homosexuals for centuries, which is true. They perpetuate stereotypes. They perpetuated stereotypes. We are concerned about migration in Europe. Well, West still occupies most of the global South even today and cause war and famine there. I genuinely can't disagree with you here. Yeah. Even if it doesn't occupy, let's say, Africa, it still controls Africa. Yeah. Adrianople says, opinions on Mehdi Hassan. No comments. He's not worthy enough for me to comment about. Yeah, not worthy enough. Who is he? Some journalist. Who cares? Yep. Okay, hi for biases. Search for 6 feet plus Ganga at 30,000K. Could not find source. I don't have the source right now. I myself remember reading the article like several years ago. It'll take a lot of digging to find it. I don't have the source right now, but I remember reading about this. I remember reading a research paper about this. So let me go and find it. It will take time to do that. I can't give the source right now on the live stream. But do your own research. Dig deeper. You checked for a few minutes, right? You did perhaps one Google search. Can you please be a little more persistent and dig deeper into it? Please, sir. Don't give up so easily. All right. Okay, that brings me to the end of the live stream for today. Thank you so much, everybody. All right. Okay, let's end it here. Thank you so much, everyone. It's almost 4 hours, as always. So, thank you, everyone. Keep asking questions, keep raising your standards, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves. See you soon. Bye-bye for now.